Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we are in for a good show tonight. Marla Ventura has her son at a hockey tournament down in Minnesota, so Jason Guillemette is filling on in. We got Nicole Sakach here as well. She's made sure that she's done her hair tonight, so we're going to have a great show for you. All right. Dirty Filth is here with some great cartoons as well, and let's get to roll call. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Robert Lamoth, Kitty Caddywhack. Larry, how you doing? Listening in Florida on Saga 960. We're glad you are here, my friend. Thank you very much. Ethanol is here. Ethanol will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Just another guy named Harry, Adam B., Bar Madison, Luscious Jewels. Nice to see you all. Eternity Eternal, Carol Amerio. How you doing? Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show with Jason and Nicole very lubed up because you never know what's going to happen in the UFO conversation, and you don't want it to be a rigid conversation. So we must lube. Thank you, Mel, for taking care of us. Little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? Lee the Bee, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night. Scrolling on down, let us next say hello to Jay, the Galactic Disclosure Movement guy. All right, continuing on here as we up next have Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. And Beverly Beatty is here. Beverly Beatty will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Continuing on with our roll call, we have D. Cypher, Frankie B., and Destiny Rocks. Scrolling on down, up next, B.A. Baracus has returned. Thank you. He pities the fool. He does. He totally does. My horrible, horrible rendition of that. Walter, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Tracy Winters, Operation Shutdown, Necessary Dialogue. Kathy Evans, Millennium, my man. Good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, Paul Demon, Keith McCormick, how you guys doing? Hi there. Oob to Joe's Maine. You got aliens. Christine Lynn, Kimberly Burgess, nice to see you. Hope you're enjoying the snow tonight, Kimberly, because it's snowing up here. Well, at least in the 8 it is. All right. Noble Patrick, Phineas on X. How you guys doing? Thanks for coming on in. Hey, Tim Mothman, give your goatee a tug for us, if you don't mind. We'd appreciate it. Tuxin Mufon, Candy. Algaray over on Twitch did 200-pound dumbbell curls 200 times in honor of Nicole and Jason tonight. He wanted to be jacked up for this show. He sure the hell is. SJ, nice to see you. Fapperoony, Broken Shadow Feather, nice to have you guys here. And let's see here, Marty Burback, Xanos, nice to have you here. Thank you. Flat Six, good to see you. as we continue on with our roll call. There's Gizmo, number 23 in your program, starting on defense tonight from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Janssen, I'm hardcore on X. Nice to see you. Dragonfly, Debbie Nickerson, Frost Kitten, Stu, Effin Gerson, how you doing? Stargazer, nice to see you. Rock and Rory, Bombshell Bomber, and the lovely and talented Katie Page. How are you? All right, let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in as we're going to talk UFOs, drones, whistleblowers. Nicole Sakach and Jason Guillemette from the UAP Studies Podcast are here. Dirty Filth is here with cartoons. You won't be able to see him on the podcast side, but that's okay. He's here. It's going to be a great cartoon. We're in roll call right now, preparing for the show. King Anthony, welcome to SOR Chat. Sir Wolf, nice to see you. S. Vermatt, Adam Robbins, how you guys doing? See if we can get this in. We are so running out of time. Escape from Blue Jersey, nice to see you again. Kitty Cattywhack, thank you for kicking off the super chat. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock. Of Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Spaced Out Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're going to have an awesome show on UFOs, drones, whistleblowers. Nicole Sakach and Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast are here. We'll bring them in momentarily. Then in hour number 3, we will deal with Swamp Dweller, kicking things off. Little Timmy James will be here with the UFO report. It's Dave 101 night, and we got the weird news of the week, including, I'm just going to warm you up for this. Do you know in the UK now, it is illegal to harass people with flatulence? We will bring you that important breaking story when we get to the weird news of the week. Let's get right to it, because this past week has been very filled with drones, with whistleblowers, with what's a UFO, what's a UAP, what the hell are we talking about? So we had to bring in a couple of really great, strong minds in this field. And tonight we bring in Nicole Sakach, researcher, author extraordinaire, Jason Guillemette from the UAP Studies Podcast. So we are in for a good show of knowledge. Nicole is a researcher and author whose work has helped define both the current and past state of ufology. Her passion work, combined with an experiencer of UFO phenomena, has her as one of the most trusted voices in the UFO world. Now, Jason, on the other hand, we're going to give him a break here because he has a great mustache. Best mustache in ufology. He really does. Yeah, he's got one of those ones that you could actually wax, and I'm very jealous of it. But he is the owner and creator and host of one of Canada's top UFO shows called the UAP Studies Podcast. Jason loves to take a scientific research look and opinion of the phenomena that helps inspire the next generation of researchers. So let's bring them on in here as we say hello to Nicole Sakach, Jason Guillemette. Good to have you all back on Spaced Out Radio.
I forgot whistleblowers used to do this back in the 90s. Remember that, guys? It was just the eyes that was covered. They wouldn't cover the face. It was just the eyes. As if you wouldn't recognize that was Bob from the HR department being the whistleblower. But yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Nicole's got it. Yeah. But thank you so much. Hey, any opportunity to come on, yeah, Dave Rogan's show, I'm all here. Do you know what I mean?
Oh God.
Dave Rogan, you've earned it with
Man.
you know exactly what you send me almost on the weekly. Okay. That it's not bad. It's not bad, but he teases me. So I always said I'm going to get him back and call him Dave Rogan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have to go down this road? Because
that's up to you. That's up to you.
Now let's just leave it between us.
Yeah.
And little Timmy James and
It's
many
so
others.
fun. I love receiving them. Thank you.
Yes, I know you do. I know you do. It's a weird time right now in ufology. And, we are in a place where ufology never really has been. And we see a lot of social media names really taking over this subject. We see a lot of whistleblowers coming out. We see a lot of defensiveness against those whistleblowers, wondering, if their credentials are real. And we see the drones happening, but it's nothing to see here, according to the Trump administration. Nicole, let's start with you here tonight. When you look at everything that is going on right now in the UFO world, how do you keep it all in line? You are somebody, you've got literally a library of notes on each and every person that you have ever talked with in ufology. And I think you're probably on volume 7 with me right now, but how can we even keep track of everything that is going on to keep our public informed when it's moving so faster than ever?
This makes me think of a conversation that Joe Merja and I had with Richard Dolan probably about 5 years ago now in Laughlin. We were all there for a conference, and this was after, of course, the New York Times article had broke, and after Lou Elizondo had come on scene, and kind of even after TTSA dropped the A, and just the amount of news and action, I think, that was starting to snowball has continued to do so. And we talked then about like how this would spread, if it would go beyond ufology, if mainstream media would pick it up more and more. And I think maybe that's what we're seeing as far as like the influencers and the podcasters that are coming onto the scene now. But is there a real way to track it? No, not as an individual. I think maybe if you're retired from your day job already and all you have to do is sit around and canvass the UFO sector, then maybe you could keep up. But no, I think people like you and me and probably Jason, we have a network of people that we talk to regularly and see what's up. Like, I've tried to ignore ufology since about November and I can't do it. Like, even not being on social media, I still have people calling me because they have my direct lines, to talk about the day to day. So I couldn't ignore the drones. You can't ignore Jake Barber, or I'm sorry, is that his name? Jake
Barber, yeah.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call him Chris, but you can't ignore the barber. And yeah, the names to follow, I think. And you know me, I'm always following the money. So we can get to that.
Well, let's just tell folks. So you're following the money, not going in your pocket, but you're following the money of where everything is, all those disclosure for dollars.
Right. I have no money in my pocket. That's all. I'm negative money for ufology, but there are some interesting collaborations happening, and those collaborations do take money and funding and investors. And I think we're seeing, the launch of Skywatcher as a result of that. So we can get to it later. This is
We're going to get Skywatcher here very, very quickly, probably after the break at the bottom of the hour, because I always tell my audience when these new groups pop up out of nowhere, whether it was To the Stars Academy, whether it was Enigma Labs or anybody like that, I always tell them, sit back and watch How do they act? Are they transparent? Are they telling you who their investigators are? What information are they putting through? Because this is a mass confusion. Because to me, a lot of these groups, Jason, they really want to try and take advantage of those who blindly believe in everything, that everything is a UFO cover-up conspiracy. Everything is literally a conspiracy about drones, a conspiracy about NHI, a conspiracy about absolutely everything. So what's your thoughts on that?
Too many cooks in the kitchen, personally. I think at some point this became an entertainment and, infotainment, if you will, of sorts, because there are influences, and we know exactly who they are, that just spring out of nowhere with tons of cash. And they could fly their guests in. They could have a nice room with a nice background and look really fancy because, hey, look, I got this guy to sit down. That's great because you're paying them. Small shows like ours can't afford to pay these guys what these guys are being paid. And this is where all the information is coming from. Everybody now is panicking, trying to rip each other off. You can't tell me that these big podcasts weren't listening to smaller podcasts like ours before, and they aren't asking the same questions we were asking prior to this. It's called ripping people off. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. And I don't care. They have millions of followers within 2 weeks of popping up. How? Money. And now we're going to have whistleblowers that are going to come forward, but they'll be secured. MSNBC wants to make sure that we secure you. CNN wants to make sure. So now they have contracts. They can't do smaller shows anymore, right? They can't go on other programs. Ross Coulthart owns this person, and this one has the exclusive with News Nation or whatever. And we're going to start stepping on each other like we normally do. And the voices of reason are going to disappear because it's become infotainment. And even we were talking about TikTok. Look at TikTok. You got 7 seconds of somebody's attention and then they'll move on. They can't. You're going to talk about UFOs for an hour? Are you kidding me? You're lucky if like your retention span, like they just look at the beginning. And if you don't have it right away, like something to catch them with a sign or stay tuned and I'll give you $1 million, they won't stay. They're not interested. It's not a big production value. So I think because of that, there's a lot of new voices chiming in, and because they're all fighting to get these new whistleblowers, there's a lot of new stuff. They're like, whoa, hang on. It's not digestible at this point. It's being overfed. And that's my opinion. I'm sorry, that was long. Sorry, Nicole.
I want to comment on that, though, because you sound very frustrated by the way it's gone. Because when you started UAP Studies Podcast, and by the way, congratulations on being named one of the top podcasts in Canada, by the way. I really
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Very, very well deserved. Very well deserved. I know the time you put in there, and especially with the subject matter that you do, it's hard to retain listeners, and you've been able to do that. So congratulations to you. But the question that I have for you is, when you started this, and I believe you started this 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago.
About 5 years now. Yeah.
Okay. How has the game changed since you decided that you wanted to get your voice out there on the UFO/UAP subject?
To tell the truth, I didn't want my voice out there. The only reason that I had started the podcast was I had joined MUFON, and they give you like this, I don't know, half an inch. I mean, Nicole, you've seen this book, and Dave, you've seen this book. It's like a half inch. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to learn to investigate out of these pages. And it was quite dated. I mean, it's probably not since 1997. And I think we have apps now and all this stuff. There's got to be a better way. And I thought, why don't I learn from the investigators that actually do this? And if I do that, why don't I record it so I could go back and re-listen? And if I do that, why don't I share it? And blah, 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 led to the podcast. And it progressed because people's interest where there had nothing to do with me and still has nothing to do with me. I host it, but I'm not the star. The subject's not about me. And only on like a radio show like this do I talk this much. But usually it's my guests. I want to listen to my guests. What do they have to say? I hate it when you listen to a show and the guy on the opposite side talks equally, if not more, than the guest that they invited.
Well,
What's the point of
let me
somebody
cut
going?
you off there just to bug you then.
What's that?
I said, let me cut you off there just to bug you then.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Yeah.
But you said something very important that is triggering to me,
Mm,
and that is ufology has become infotainment.
mhm.
Now, when I worked in terrestrial radio, one of the absolute worst human beings and news directors I ever had, we'll call him George, because his name was George. Okay, he literally had a list of hiring and firings every 2 weeks. Ridiculous man, but that's the way radio was back then. And it was around 2002, 2003 where news radio started switching to infotainment,
Mhm.
where city council didn't matter anymore. What they were doing with your tax dollars didn't matter anymore, as long as we knew what was happening back then in the latest Britney Spears saga, or something along those lines of TMZ type trash. I'm not saying TMZ is trash, but that type of
You're also not saying it.
the story, you know.
Yeah.
So Nicole, when you've been in ufology since it actually was ufology and not you apology, you have developed one of the most important one-liners that I think, and you may laugh at this, but I think I've used this so much and I give you credit for it every time, is the 2017s. The 2017s, which really reshaped apology rather than ufology, and we don't see a lot of ufology anymore because those people are getting older. They don't know how to use social media as much, whereas the apologists really have taken social media by storm with this topic. How do you differ between that on the infotainment side to actually trying to gain proper knowledge and sources?
Oh, let's unpack that question a little bit. How do you tell the difference between researchers before 2017, or just how do I define ufology?
Let's start there. That's an important part of this.
I think the big divide is knowing UFO history and what has come before TTSA, because I refer to the 2017ers. It's not necessarily following the New York Times article, but that push with Tom DeLonge and TTSA, which led up to Lou Elizondo's coming out party and the videos release, So that is kind of where our current situation begins for me, but as we're seeing now, even with this latest person or people that have come forward, I don't like calling them whistleblowers. I don't think they technically fit that definition either. So we can debate that term another time, but these informers that have come forward, or witnesses or participants, I guess is one way to put it, that all roads lead back, I say it all the time, to Hal Puthoff. And in this instance, they lead back to Greer, and this is coming up in so many ways. Like, groups have been pushing behind the scenes and in a public forum for going on decades now, back into the 70s, the 80s, well documented. Greer came on scene really big time in the 90s. But yeah, this era of the 2017ers seems to think everything started with this latest reboot of TTSA. And we've been trying to reinvent the wheel for so long. Like, every group that comes out is trying to reinvent the wheel somehow. So yeah, that's where I'm stuck with the before and after. All has to do with the history, in my opinion. When you know the history, you can see the patterns of what's going on, and the individuals and the groups that these individuals form also fit a pattern. We've seen these. Skywatcher is so reminiscent of what UAPX was, or what it was supposed to be. And yeah, I mean, Lou Elizondo really backed that, and McGowan's Osiris Mobile. And, I was saying, well, what about the mobile lab in, Mufon, Missouri? And what about the beast that's rolling up and down, Illinois and the Midwest and, so on. So Bob McGuire even tricked out his RV with, Skyhub. So these ventures have been there before as well. So I think it's interesting to see if they're picking and choosing maybe the best practices of a bunch of these groups and new ones are forming, or if they really are continuations of the same groups and the same people. Because I think there definitely needs to be that influx of new blood.
I think there needs to be new people as well.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, are we oversaturating the market, Jason, with information? You think you are. Nicole says no. So,
Well,
Jason, let's get your opinion first.
Yeah, Nicole just made some really great points that there's too many cooks in the kitchen and everybody's trying to reinvent it. Like there's always a new team popping up. Well, we're going to be the one. And it always fails. Then it just fizzle out like I don't know. It's very disappointing because we keep thinking or putting our hopes in these organizations, and then obviously people go off on, oh, they're part of the CIA, they're giving all the information, and it's really easy right now. We're all like piranhas, and you got a bucket of chum, and you just throw it in the water. Everybody's just scrambling to get it, and that's exactly what we're doing in this right now. It's so easy for anybody who wants to throw in disinformation to throw it in there. How is it not? We don't even have time to. Okay, I'm not going to swear because it's a radio. I understand that. But here's what really grinds my gears. Fill that in with whatever you may. What I don't like is something will pop out and instantly everybody jumps on it. There's a show within hours. We're going to talk about what took place at Miami with the 3 giant aliens. What a load of crap. Like, if you think about it, how do they have more information than anyone else? And then they talk for an hour about a video that you can't see. There's no evidence. People jump on the bandwagon so fast just for views and clicks. Now we're being ripped off. And I know we're being ripped off because I've had friends who their interviews get ripped off. Like for instance, let's just cut out Nicole's part of the interview and just have her on our channel with our brand name on it, ripping you off from your video. And they're doing this now. And it's not going to be any different with these bigger companies, because the thing is, who are you? We're the mainstream media. I don't trust mainstream media. So far, News Nation has earned my trust a little bit and still minute, exactly. But I don't trust that. And even what happened with Jeremy Corbell, which, oh my God, Jeremy Corbell, like 2 years ago, you could not get a higher name in ufology than Jeremy Corbell. He brings a 12-page document to Nancy Mace herself in her office and everybody else. Michael Schellenberger did not hand in the Immaculate Constellation paperwork. Jeremy Corbell did. Who took the credit for that? Michael Schellenberger. Who gave him credit for that? Nancy Mace. He's sitting right there looking at her. Like, what are you doing? I handed it to her. Like, she knows for a fact it's not Michael Schellenberger. And that raises questions. You're like, okay, well,
Pop quiz.
What's that pop? Yeah.
Pop quiz. What UFO researcher was named 8 times in the Immaculate Constellation? They didn't get any credit.
Nope.
You don't hear them whining. So, I mean, the oversaturation thing, we need the UFO-tainment to oversaturate the rest of the world. I mean, we're oversaturated as a UFO community. We're sick of, the clickbait and all of that. And that's where, whatever term you want to put on it, like the cream will rise. Like it's annoying to us at this point because we think we know better, but we are still such a minute community when we're talking about us versus the rest of the world or the general population. We're nothing. We're a teardrop in the bucket of
chum.
Anything ufology.
Nicole Sakach, Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast. We will be right back with more on drones, Skywatcher, UFOs, and everything else we can jam on in. Let's Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
Dave Rogan. Just still can't believe it.
You better watch out. You keep saying Dave Rogan, and like El Ovni Volador is going to challenge Joe Rogan to like a cage match, a ufology cage match.
Oh, that'd be great.
El Ovni Volador.
It would be.
I'm just happy El Ovni Volador is he hasn't been around, but I did get an ominous email from him the other day. It's actually pretty scary. El Omni Volador and his tag team partner El Phantasmo are apparently going to be in Vegas the same time we are. So I don't know what's going to happen, but if they want to go, we could go. We could go.
You know, I've been hearing interesting rumors that they might make an appearance on Netflix WWE Monday Night Raw. So, I mean,
Well,
I don't know. I hear they're making new masks and costumes, and they might do like a challenge for the belt. But I don't know. You might have to just throw like one of these Logan Paul like fights out there. I think Joe Rogan, you guys could promo that for El Ovni, get him in the ring.
Maybe
Should all be about promoting UAPs.
I'm too old for
UAP
that.
transparency.
Call it punch cast.
Yeah.
You're not too old. They wheeled the Hulk Hogan out for the first one on Netflix. They wheeled him out there. He was proud. He waved.
He got booed.
That's like part of it. Boos are just cheering and opposite.
I just say that we start a ufology fight club. You know what I mean?
There's too many of those.
Are there? Not on Twitter. Yeah. I meant in physical. Yeah.
There's too many of those.
What did you say about my work? Yeah. You really just
what do you think happens? What do you think happens in all those abandoned underground bases? It's Fight Club.
That's exactly what happens. Exactly.
Got to take out the frustrations. Just don't Fight Club with the Nordics. They can rip your arms off.
Allegedly, they're not to be messed with. Yeah. You say your please and thank you, and you'd think, what would a Canadian say right now? And you'll stay alive.
They have really advanced robotics, so it's all right. They'll give you some robot arms.
Well, interesting to even listen to Jason Sands, because he was talking about when he was doing the transcripts that whenever they work in the labs, they don't allow any humans in. And they're really adamant on that. You're not allowed in there. And the humans are really useless. Like the only thing they do is let us watch. We can't do anything about it. Can't stop it. They're like, well, you can watch, but this is a necessity. And that's interesting because we keep thinking that, oh, they're working with the aliens, like as if they're co-workers, like, hey, Bob, how's it going? No, skinny Bob. But that's not the way it works. The way it works is that they're calling the shots. The military is just, they're pets at this point. They're really nothing. And that's a scary bit. And the other great point was mentioning the blue guy when he was mentioning, well, there's S4 over there. And the guy said, no, they're barbarians. Alien thinks that S4 are barbarians. What the hell are they doing in there? So, yeah, that's really great.
Give me a few seconds here, guys. I just want to give a quick shout out to Mac Geek and Michael Gutierrez. Thanks for coming on in. And who else is joining us here? Area 53 is here. Yeah, we see him. How you doing, buddy? And who else is joining us? Oh, thank you, Wes. Yeah, you guys, if you're coming to the Vegas party, the Merlin Day Vegas party and you run into El Ovni Volador or El Fantasmo, just send them to the other casino. Tell them we're at the old strip. That's where we are. Just true. You gotta protect yourself. There's danger out there. Hi, Nikki in Seattle. How you doing?
That's close to here.
Yeah, in Seattle. Yeah,
That's
big
yeah.
thank you tonight to Area 53, Jay, Mike ×2, Pam, and Kitty Cattywhack for the amazing super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate your love and support. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So check it on out. Here we go. Spaced Out Radio tonight, all about drones and UFOs and whistleblowers. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From UAP Studies Podcast, we got Jason Guillemette. We have Nicole Sakach here, researcher and author, sometimes a cook. You know, we are going to continue on here because one of the new groups that has come out is a group called Skywatcher. Now, this is a group that has Jake Barber, the latest whistleblower of the Green Egg, coming out and basically becoming almost instantaneously the new face of ufology, where he stepped into this leadership role where they're going into what is going on within the government, what is going on with experiencers. They're testing out psionics. They want UFO reports. They want absolutely everything. Nicole, I know you have looked into this with Skywatcher, pardon me. What's your overall thoughts of this new group?
I don't have overall thoughts yet. You can't really find a bunch of information on them yet. I mean, have you pulled up their web page? It's just like, give me your email, and it's like, what can you do for us? Like, I'm a little confused. Like, what exactly are they wanting you to report, or are they soliciting help in some way? Like, do they still need members to fill out this team? But then when you listen to their part one, the host, Alex, I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to offend him. He seems like a really interesting fella. But he is I guess, a pretty heavy investor in salt. And I guess after bringing on Gary Nolan and then the following year, Carl Nell, and hearing some of the spinoff from them, I mean, if you listen to their part one, the beginning, this is how it's explained. So is Skywatcher really his baby? And he found Barber and this team. And so they're doing a feature on it, or how much money is being put into it? I mean, at this point, I already brought up that it sounds like UAPX, or what we wanted UAPX to be. But the footage they've already put out of their psionics team summoning looks like what I've seen Melinda Leslie do 5-7 nights a week. So, I mean, are they landing these things, or are they making blinkies? Because I've been in plenty of CE5 and heist groups where we get the flares and the blinkies. So really, what are they doing that isn't being done in ufology already besides leveraging AI in some way?
Well, let me just bring you up, because I think you bring up a good point. CE5 has been around for decades, and
Hmm.
many experiencers outside, take away Stephen Greer, take away all the disclosure for dollars people. Okay, there are regular people who have been able to summon UFOs and been documenting their information, maybe not on camera, or this goes even before iPhones and everything like that had cameras. But there have been people who have claimed that they have been doing this for years going on. And now all of a sudden, the 2017s, this is what I noticed. So I'm going to steal your term again, Nicole. The 2017s seem to think, just because, and this isn't a shot at Jason Barber, but just because Jason Barber comes out and says we could do this, now the 2017s are all explosive on this. Like, wow, we could summon UFOs with our minds and point lasers at them and do whatever we want. But prior to that, if somebody from ufology claimed about doing that, oh, we got to stay away from that woo. We can't go down that road. We can't touch that subject. This is nuts and bolts 101 here. I mean, it's a little bit hypocritical, in my opinion.
Well, this is where it pays to know your history. I think some of the earliest contactees claimed this summoning effect, or at least being able to know when their craft was going to land. But then a lot of early ufology also overlapped with spiritualism and channeling and mediumship. So, here at Spaced Out Radio, we welcome the woo. We talk all sorts of high strangeness. But I think to unpack this psionic summoning, naturally it's going to be compared to CE5. We already have Dr. Greer screaming like, oh my God, this is not CE5. Like, stop. Like, they're obviously doing something that, or have done something with their psionics teams that maybe isn't as diplomatic as the love and lighters may want our relationship with ETs or extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence to be. But we have to unpack CE5 a little bit as well, because you have to go back to Dr. Hynek and his close encounter scale. That's where we get CE1, 2, and 3. We all know about CE4 as being abductions. That really came into play in the 80s and 90s as well, as something very terrifying to like talk up this like threat side to it. Which I will point out again, seems to be only about 8 to 10% of people that report encounters. So to get back to CE5, CE4 is abductions. CE5 is human initiated contact, which is heist. And that sort of experience, I think, falls in line with the summoning of craft. And we can take this back. I'll throw it out to you, Canadians. We can take this back to even Wilbert Smith talking about the channel they used to summon AFA, and AFA calling down his craft to land and join them and then take off again. So this sort of psionic use, we got to even rip on that. We're talking about psychic. We're talking about psychic activity. So they're also trying to change a word on us here and make it more digestible by calling it psionics. So it also helps in this capacity if you know the history of our spies. And Russell Targ, I think, lays it out beautifully. He's still talking a lot, as much as he can, I think. And you can watch the movie Third Eye Spies. And that even brings me to another formation of a company like Skywatcher. If they're using spies, well, Joe McGonigal, he formed a psychic business after Stanford SRI closed their spy program. He formed his own company that was used by the CIA and other agencies, I guess you could say. So is this current Skywatcher, is it sort of I don't want to call it a shell because I don't think it's a fake thing that's being used. Or front. I don't think it's necessarily that, unless they don't put out something very tangible and real. And yeah, I'll kick it back to you, Dave, and say, why aren't we celebrating these things? They're repackaging things that are already happening in our community. You know, why isn't Skywatcher coupled with Melinda? Why aren't they trying to acquire her data?
There's a lot of people like that. I think Enigma Labs already got out to that right off the bat, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to acquire, people's libraries and positions for them. I mean, we know quite a few of those that tried with Enigma Labs. Let's go over to you, Jason, from UAP Studies Podcast. Jake Barber, 2 weeks ago, nobody had ever heard of him. 3 weeks ago, nobody had ever heard of him. And now all of a sudden, he is the new face of ufology.
Dude, that's like every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, there's a new face of ufology. It's nonstop. I can't keep up. First of all, I know this had nothing to do with Ross Coulthard. He had no probably say in the production of this, but whoever made this, it is so cheesy. The scenes of him like, look, UFOs. And to me, like, I was laughing. I was, it's comical. And then the egg thing, I would have not shown that at all. If I was Ross Coulthard, I'd be like, no. This is like, there's way better footage out there on the internet that people have captured in their backyard than that. And within 15 minutes on X, there's people who had reduplicated that picture with,
tape measure?
Yeah, tape measure and an egg in the kid's room with a green light. I mean, 15 minutes. And that's exactly it. You see that stuff. And for us that have been in this forever, you're like, he's going to get ripped apart. He's going to get ripped apart. Like, the community is going to rip him apart. Like, this is not great. And Nicole, you're asking, why are they, going after Melinda Leslie, which is awesome. I got to hang out with her a few times now. She's a hoot. Why are they going in? Because they don't know about her. Like, they don't know about half the people in the community.
Right? Everybody who's anybody has been on a Skywatch with Melinda. Jim Semivan's gone. Tom DeLonge's gone. Like, they know about Melinda. They were trying to get Melinda into their club before she even knew it. Like, back when she was working for Disney. Yeah. Like, and that's where, okay, like, beyond Melinda's skywatching, or even her, but she's a celebrated psychic medium. She can bend spoons. She can do the fork thing that's like, we have these people in our community. So yeah, we talk about this often on Spaced Out Radio. Why does it have to be a government or a military witness that somehow they repackage and that brings validation? Why don't they throw their weight behind somebody that's in the actual community? And that brings me back to the Immaculate Constellation, bringing up people in Schellenberger or Corbell, whoever it is. There is still an index to that research where people's work needs to be cited. And that's what I'll say. So
yeah, but that's a fear. I mean, even in science, people rip each other off all the time. It's not going to be any different for this. And the problem with this is that there's science, there's infotainment, there's books deals to be made. There's, like, tell me these whistleblowers aren't going to make books that Jake Barber hasn't already been approached by HarperCollins to write a book about it. Of course, that stuff is all coming.
But that's great, though. We need that oversaturation to get out to the rest of the world. But it's,
yes and no, because then our concepts are going to get skewed. And even now, like, it is skewed. Now they're talking about psionics. And the thing is about psionics, and I'm just going to explain this. So, from my perspective, we're all psionics. Each one of us is capable of telepathy and all that, but it's a muscle that is not used. We have forgotten about it. In the West, we have so many comforts. What's the last time anybody prayed, for a while, for an hour? Nobody does that. We're on their phones. and we need to be stimulated because, now we're building robots to be our friends, for crying out loud. We need this stuff, but we don't take care of what's innate and built in us. You are a spiritual being. The mental capacity, it could just be your person, who you are as an eternal being. You're able to move these things, but we forgot about that. When they say psionics, they're meeting people that are very similar to the abductees. There are people that are very creative, that could create art. They are attuned to how everybody feels in a room. If there's one person not feeling good, they'll target that one person and make them feel better. They're prone to animals. Like, that's what a psionic is. Obviously, I've never heard of a psychopath or a sociopath being associated to an abduction or anything related to telepathy or anything
And
like that.
you sound probably like the talk that Dr. Greer was giving along with that slide that people clipped where he's like left-handed bis and gay guys are, on psionic teams.
I'm not a
The
Greer
rest
fan.
of that was, you haven't seen that?
Oh,
Like,
I'm not a
that
Greer
was
fan. I don't follow him at all. No.
that you can be a fan or not a fan. That wasn't something he officially put out. It was something that was like me.
I think he had a strong
that-
start in the 90s. He had a really strong start. I think the
Oh,
whole
he's-
9/11 thing
There's
took
not
the
a
wind out of
start.
his
There's
sails.
not a finish to it. He's still going, obviously.
I'm hoping, but I
that's
think
why
he's gotten a
Barber
little
was attached
delusional.
to him. I
Yeah.
like the trickle down. We could even name other ones that have come forward and don't get taken seriously, like Mario Woods, and Terry Lovelace, like why is Barber taken more seriously than them? Or
Yeah.
Jim Peniston and John Burroughs, for that matter, like what they went through. Like,
Yeah.
so,
And
that's
you're
what I'm
mentioning
meaning.
Lovelace.
Like stand behind some people in the community and you're gonna get more support. Like these people that come out of nowhere and have investors that don't want to be named, and that's fine because things fall through. You might not want your name and money attached to stuff. That's fine. You don't know how to sort through all the loons in our community. That's fine too, because everybody comes across, like you were just talking, showing this egg. Like, anytime you put out a video, that's risky. It's risky. What the Batman balloon that came out, and when the debrief put that out, yeah, I remember having a talk with Grant, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's just risky. It could be the kiss of death. It's like, would you hang your whole, situation on one video that may or may not, And so I think that's what the egg is. But we all come across those moments of whether it's a video or it's a alleged witness or experiencer. Like, we've all been lied to. We've all been fed the bullshit. We've all wanted the one to be the one. So people like Dr. Greer have that happen more often, and they're doing it more publicly. Same with Grant. Same way. Grant's not always right. Like, people poke holes in his stuff all the time. He may seem like he ignores it, but he listens, and I'm sure he'll BB brain back around to it and, try to amend those solutions. But the best people keep plugging away at it, like it's not going to go away. If you're just doing it for the UFOtainment, like, you don't have that longevity and that staying power. Like, doesn't happen.
Are we at the point though where, because it's a new flavor of the month, that we're all jumping on the bandwagon or seeing people jump on the bandwagon? I don't blame Jake Barber for this. Okay. I don't. If that's his encounter, I'm willing, even though I'm 50-50 on the video, maybe more 70-30 that I don't believe it's a UFO. Well, more like 90-10. But, okay, I don't believe it's a UFO. I'm just trying to be a polite host here. Okay. But
he got there. Yeah.
But I don't blame him for coming out, or with the psionics. I may not believe the egg, but I do believe the psionics because I've done it myself. And I know many people who have done it. So I'm at this catch-22 right now with him, where I want to buy into the guy, but once again, he's got his handlers now that are going to take care of him media-wise. I don't think it's going to be another thing where we don't see him do the UFO circuit. unless once his name starts kind of, dissipating, then all of a sudden we'll get the UFO circuit. Okay, but I want to believe, but Nicole, I'm all over the map here. Help me out.
I might be picking up on your brain psionically. Is this a venture into the circuit or something? There's not a circuit for this. So, but it's like, are we going to have like another Skinwalker Ranch situation here where it's like, or let's not even say Skinwalker Ranch. Let's say Curse Oak Island. Are we going to have like 9 years of us trying to summon UFOs and, like cutscenes? So, because, we're learning slowly but assuredly that, science really isn't made for TV. But we keep making these pseudo television shows about collecting data and, it's great. And that's on the entertainment side, but it's also on the boots on the ground side. There's that fine line. Travis Taylor is walking it well. Brandon Fugel's walking it well. Or are we going to use this psionics team to launch more whistleblowers and see some actual tech? Like like real tech, not like the hanging Easter egg. Like, where did the egg go? We've had other eggs, Lonnie Zamora saw an egg. Loveland, Texas saw an egg. There's eggs. So can they get into them? Do they hatch? Like what? Tell me more.
It's like a giant bird just hatching UFO eggs somewhere.
I'm not thinking birds. We talk reptilians all the time. Like, or do reptiles lay round eggs? Like, how egg shaped was this egg?
But there are people who are coming out on X who claim they worked in these places or in the intelligence community who are saying, we've seen these before.
That's cool.
These.
Let's ask them a lot of questions. Ask them if they worked for the DIA, if what they were taught was a spinoff of any of the sci-fi program from SRI. Like, ask them the names. Like, did you work with Verona? Like, do you know McGonagall? Like, I mean, there has to be some sort of crossover with what we've looked into with these capabilities, like Uri Geller, and there has to be a continuation. FOIA, 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 FOIA. Like, we know the DIA was trying to take it over. How far did they advance it? Nobody likes it when I bring up Rick Doty, but he's talked about some of these programs that graduate like 200 people a year from them, from from this date to now. So quantify that. How many psionically trained people are out there? Is this a class? Can you just is it on the billboard in like your rec hall where it's like, want to test your psi abilities? Sign up for this training course. Like, like you could go in and learn Taekwondo.
I think it's recruitment, Nicole. I think they recruit.
Yeah,
people.
well, that's what we're hearing. And that's setting off like alarms, though. Like, is that real recruitment? Is that shadow recruitment? Like,
shadow for sure.
There's guys that are recruited for a lot of things, or like he was talking about all the clubs that he's involved in. Does that mean, like, okay, I've joined a lot of clubs, Junior Girl Scout troop.
The part that was interesting in the interview is he's mentioning we'd rather have a trustworthy person. What was it? Than a person that's like has a bunch of accolades and all that. They'd rather go with a person that has less accolades, but is more trustworthy.
Right. Well, is this a Bob Lazar situation then? Like,
just
everybody's like, oh, he wouldn't have been used for what he was used for in that capacity because XYZ, and he lies and he this and
Yeah. Well,
and
we were talking, Nicole, before you came on with Dave, and we were saying about Actually, I lost my train of thought on that one, actually, where I was going. But we're talking about the psionic powers and stuff like that too. But um, uh, even the entities themselves will make you do things. Like sometimes there was a man, I think it was Puerto Rico, they put a box in front of him and said, "Can you open it with your mind?" And he's like, he tried, couldn't do it. But they're interested in that too, because we have that ability. We don't all have that ability. And what I mean by that is we don't all have the same consciousness.
Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast, author, researcher, Nicole Sakach, drone coming up next. Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. If you're adding to the Nicole Sakach swear jar, we're at 1 for tonight.
I heard it. I saw your reaction. I saw your reaction. Yeah.
Dang it. Did I really? Which
Yeah,
I
9:52. You dropped a bullshit.
see it's
I'm taking
Nicole,
a quick break. I'm gonna put, if you guys want to keep chatting, go ahead. I'm just gonna.
I was gonna ask Nicole, are you a lawyer? Because you would be perfect as a lawyer. Or can I hire you as my lawyer in case shit hits the fan?
no, but
No?
I should have maybe been like a legal secretary or, along
Legal
those
aid
lines.
or
No, like
exactly.
when you write all sorts of things. So you learn, like you learn from attorneys and legal secretaries and things like that. So
I encourage everybody to read as much as possible. I mean, I read a variety of things, but I think that's how you learn. That's how you grow as a person, is to read other people's thoughts. And we were talking about telepathy. To me, art is telepathy. If I see a painting, the artist is giving me a thing.
You should try to talk with Russell Targ. Like, he's been saying this forever now, that this is,
like
exactly
how
what you're
music
saying.
moves you and like you get emotional. That's telepathy. That's a way of us giving somebody else. Because I always find like, okay, my wife left me, the dog died. I could tell you that at work. You're like, oh, that's sad. But if I sang you the blues with emotion, you'd cry. Now my problem becomes yours. And with this telepathy thing, I'm really interested because we have that same ability. And the only thing I would not suggest is trying to do the CE5. I have 3 people that tried in their backyard, calm, like for 2 weeks. And then what happened after that? They did not like the results. So
well, that's I'll refer back to contact modalities. Grant wrote a book on it. It's just like, you walking into a Catholic church. Is that going to work for you? Is it going to move you? Is it going to do it? No, it's not. CE5 does work for some people.
Yeah.
It works for a lot of people. It didn't work for me, but I could pick and choose like parts of it and other meditations. And that's part of it. We all have this. It's how you can tap into it and tune into it. There's a range of what it is. I can't bend spoons. That makes me really frustrated. Like I can't do it. And I've had several people try to guide me on how to do it. Yeah, I can't do it. And, like you were talking about like interest in like, can you open a box, or kinetically move something like.
Or fly the ship even.
I talked to pilots and I've flown something, but so I was just around people at Soul Foundation. And so I was sitting there in like this, like lounge area that was in the middle of like the big common, gathering area. And it was like all these couches and then like tables and people were sitting there with like their lunch and their drink, but there wasn't like a table. And like this person sitting next to me is a pretty powerful experiencer and gets downloads and has some of these abilities and can affect equipment and things like that. And the other person sitting next to me happened to be Jack Sarfati, and Jack Sarfati was like holding his drink, and he was like, man, I really need a place to set my drink down. And I turned to my friend with the abilities, and like almost instantaneously, this guy walked up and moved the table over for Jack so he could set down this glass. And I just looked back at my friend and I said, "Was that you?" And he goes, "It happened." And I was like, okay. So where that would have been putting a thought into somebody else's head, like, hey, go push that table up, not necessarily moving the actual table. So
And it's a childlike wonder. I think that's what we lost is, as children, we were a lot more open to this, and we get badgered as adults into forgetting about this stuff, I think.
it comes naturally to women. You guys are just stifled by your limited left brain logical thinking.
I'm right.
Women naturally have both sides of that going on.
Yeah.
I'm left-handed, but I'm straight.
I'm both-handed. What's that mean?
Ambidextrous.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like that slide stuff that I've heard that talk. I've heard Greer give that talk. Grant gives a very similar talk as well. So
Are you a Greer fan, Nicole?
no, but I'm definitely not an enemy, but I don't know what a Greer fan is. I mean,
It's somebody
I follow his work. Yeah, I was stunned. I was stunned between Unacknowledged and CE5 coming out, those two very different sides of Greer.
Guys. Hi, the Michael Leger. How are you? Big thank you tonight to Kitty Caddywhack, Mike ×2, Pam, Jay, Area 53, Andrew, and Adam for the great super chats. And don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. And yeah, you can wear our stuff out to more places than just the hardware store, the flea market, garage sailing, painting. Here we go. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are talking UFOs, drones, whistleblowers with Nicole Sakach, Jason Guillemette, and yes, sincerely. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. DeBarris. DeBarris is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From UAP Studies Podcast, we have Jason Guillemette, researcher and author, Nicole Sakach, and we're going to get into the drones. Nothing to see here, said Chief Wiggum from the Pentagon and the White House. When it came to what the drones are, they're all FAA approved. There is no threat from any sort of adversary. They are not aliens, but the UFO community, Jason, refuses to acknowledge this. What's your thoughts?
Oh, they're full of it, and you know it. The answer they gave us is, oh, really? I almost applaud them for the lack of imagination as far as I'm concerned. The thing is, when you think about things logically, the part that doesn't make sense, you're flying these drones, everybody's panicking, Congress is asking for information, they're asking the president, and nobody from the FAA contacts and says, hey, actually, it's just us flying and scaring everybody. They never bothered to do that for 3 months. Come on, you're kidding me? And then they fly over military installations, which are like, you can't do that. You would be shot down. They try to shoot them down. No, they don't come down. So the FAA has better technology than the military of the United States at this point. What about what happens in England? Now the FAA is taking trips over. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, they're not even trying at this point. And the mayor of New Jersey came out and said they're full of crap. I saw them last night and I saw them the night before. So I don't know why they're feeding this. I don't know who's feeding this information. There's a reason why they want to keep people in the dark, but the lack of things have gotten worse over time. When we were kids, I don't know if you guys remember that, it was really elaborate lies. Like they would really go above and beyond to hide it. They don't even care anymore. They just, I don't know if it's a DEI hires or what, but they don't even care about throwing out good ideas. Like, just say it was the FAA. They'll take the hit. Okay, but what about the answers? Why isn't the FAA being investigated over this? And let's see the drones.
I don't think
That's my take.
I'm on the bandwagon that I do not believe that they are alien whatsoever. I think that there is some sort of operation going on that can't be discussed. Even Trump, before the election, Nicole, stated that there's logical answers to this issue and that the Biden administration should just come out with it. And when we came out, it was, yeah, it's ours. It's ours. It's nothing else. Because if what people need to realize, and maybe I'm standing on a soapbox, I don't want to ruin the Dave 101 later. Okay. But if these were evasive in any sort of way, all hell would have broken loose over the East Coast with jet fighters, attack helicopters trying to bring these things down. We didn't see that. Nicole, aliens or U.S. technology?
It's not aliens. I haven't seen anything that, and I don't even analyze videos, but some people I know do. But when I can reverse image search on Google and match up tail lights and shapes of some of these drones, that's me, just to cook in the middle of Illinois, cornfields. Not a tech specialist at all, but okay, so you take some of these concept designs that are well known and then you can match them up and you can maybe make an educated assumption that this is a continuation or next gen something. But I said it from the beginning when they were saying this is not our military. That's very specific. Okay, it's not our military. They sounded off, it's not us, it's not us, it's not us. And then it's like even the president said if this was a foreign adversary or not even an adversary, if this was one of our allies, it's spying on us and we didn't know it, sending something into our airspace and we didn't know it, that would provoke a certain response. Well, we didn't see those responses either. So, powers of deduction here. Who does that leave? Who didn't sound off? Who didn't make any sort of statements at all? Raytheon, Northrop, GE, there's lots of these companies. NASA didn't say, hey, it's not ours. They have stuff in low Earth orbit. They could potentially even try to figure out, like, hey, turn those satellites over New Jersey right now. We got some drone action. Like, I don't know. I think we're seeing hybrid drones, which people don't necessarily understand that concept either. We might be seeing prototypes between aircraft and drones, manned and unmanned scenarios, or drone swarm technology. And yeah, I think they will stick to their NDAs and give out that, hey, like you said, are they just taking the hit? It's like, send out the hits, just like cloak the excuses, it'll go away. To me, this is a repeat of balloon madness. And, we could call those all Chinese spy balloons all we want, but one was from Illinois and it was a hobbyist balloon.
Well, the fact that we are still debating this, and the funny part about it is I have 3 different sources who've all told me the exact same thing, that we've seen these before. These are not balloons, including one of my sources who's an advisor to a whistleblower.
Okay.
Okay. And yet his whistleblower is coming out saying, I wouldn't be too certain that these aren't all UFOs, or some of these aren't UFOs, contradicting what this advisor says. And I find it very interesting that, I got pretty good sources. Yet we see people like Ross Coulthart and George Knapp and others who have pretty credible sources within the defense community, the Pentagon, the military, and elsewhere, who are claiming that our sources are telling us that this isn't ours, that this is something strange going on that we need to know about. And like you, Jason, they said that excuse from the White House was terrible. Your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, that excuse, like I said, lackluster at best. What I think they mentioned bases, or at least we're starting to hear about these bases located on this planet, different places, one in Antarctica, another one in Alaska, whatever. I think that's where we should be focusing our efforts, is to try to see where these bases are and how to get in them. If that is the case, if that's where they are, instead of just waiting for them to fly around. As far as the drone part, that doesn't make sense to me. It kills every Hollywood movie about the military. We're like, sir, we have a bogey on. Okay, send in all the jets. Like, they can't even stop a balloon from flying over their country or shooting down these drones. Supposedly they're elusive to bullets or to, weapons that would normally bring down a drone. They can't seem to shoot them down. And we still don't have one. There was allegedly one that crashed, and then, a bunch of people showed up for it, but we don't know what happens. Every time something like that happens, they kill the story. And what do they feed to the mainstream media? Well, they don't want to scare old granny that's 84 listening to the news. She's just waiting for the part where they talk about a cat being rescued at the end on the cute segment. She doesn't want to hear about aliens. And so we're catering to that. And in Canada, we're even far worse, as we're so behind. If this happened in Canada, Nicole, it'd be a gong show. Like, we'd have no answers. The parliament doesn't even care. At least the states care, and people are starting to care because you guys.
Yeah, but it's taken a long time for them to care. We had drone swarms over Nebraska. There was like another tri-state area. I mean, this is going back years now. This
Even the Battle of LA back in the 40s, like, that was a big event. 8 hours of shooting at stuff that didn't seem to come down at all. So it's interesting. You guys have a rich history of these swarms of UFOs, even a flyby in Capitol in the 1950s. Like, they're there. But the problem is the admittance from, I'm not going to say government. I don't think the government knows anything. The shadow government's the one running the show behind the scenes. They're tight-lipped. Skunk Works. Heard nothing of them. That'd be the first place I'd go ask them. What do you think of these drones? They have ships with skins on them, for crying out loud, that adapt to the conditions. Skunk Work. Where did they come up with that idea? They wouldn't know.
They have drones that change shape too.
Who knows? It could be Skunk Works.
One is called the Acorn, I think.
Yeah. To give such a lackluster response, to tell you the truth, guys, I think it's blatantly something that they cannot reveal, and they're so scared to reveal it that any simple answer, just anything to appease the people that are scared.
Are we upset at the lackluster answer to this, or are we upset that for the 3 months prior to this answer, the United States federal government was basically treating this like the Simpsons Chief Wiggum, nothing to see here. Let's not even confirm it. They literally pulled a Canadian government that if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. That's what happened. So is it we're blaming this new administration because of the boring beige Volvo driving answer, or are we blaming this because they had 3 months to let the mayors know, the governors know, the Congress people know, and they did nothing about it? They kept them all in the dark. Those people didn't know if it was ours, if it was I mean, remember the rumors that these were coming out of a Chinese submarine based off the coast of New Jersey,
Oh, it was an Iranian mothership.
and an Iranian mothership where they were landing. I mean, there was not enough information given. So I could see your point, Jason, on the idea that this was something that was a boring answer. It was a terrible answer.
Didn't
But we
explain
also
anything.
don't know that if there was, say, a threat, like there was the rumor that I had heard from multiple sources, okay, that basically said that there was some nuclear parts that went missing, and they had to use the drones during the night to try and track it. I mean, was it that? Was it something else? Special guest coming on. This person
Yeah, ooh,
this person has military experience, and we're going to bring this person on right now. Mystery guest, how are you?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good.
It's very random that you're here.
You know.
Giorgio Tsoukalos's hair, everybody.
It's left-handed Giorgio to you.
How would you respond to the drone situation, Mr. Random?
Well, I mean, are we talking about just the East Coast stuff specifically? Or are we talking about the hysteria that's everywhere?
Well, let's talk about the East Coast and then get into the hysteria.
Okay. Well, I kind of like your takes on things. The assessments are valid. But, talking to a lot of buddies and just going off of some experience, there's some things that just struck me as odd. Trump made this announcement that he was going to come out and talk about drones, right? I think he said we'll get on that day one. And everybody's like, well, it's day one. We didn't get our drone announcements. What's going on? And then like day 3 or whatever it was, comes out and says, hey guys, they're FAA approved flights, not the bad guys, nothing to worry about. So what happens, right? Everybody, of course, not what they want to hear. So it must be a conspiracy. You can't be disclosure president if you don't tell us what we want to hear, exactly how we want to hear it. But something you need to understand, FAA approved does not mean that the FAA is briefed on what's going on, right? So it could be something as simple as, hey, there was some security things going on. And then, there was an inauguration, for instance, right? And you had mentioned the medical nuclear stuff that had gone missing. I don't think that was so much it, because generally speaking, they're not going to sweep a large city or a large area like that over something of that grade. And if it went missing, when it went missing, the time it would take to fashion like a dirty bomb, because that's what they would actually be concerned about, is material, not explosives. They wouldn't necessarily announce that, right? And that's going to be a classified mission, just like anything else. So if we're playing devil's advocate here of maybe Trump was telling the truth, but there's certain things you can't say. If it's not actually related to disclosure and it's something important for us to do, I would expect the president or anybody else to keep that secret, to not be able to go back. Because if you're a bad guy, for instance, and he comes out and says, hey guys, just in case we had like a 1% chance that there might be nuclear material, and we check for, they do it at the Super Bowl. They do it in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. They do it at the Rose Bowl. All large events, they check for nuclear material. They just do it in different methods over different time, depending on where the threat's most likely. So if that was occurring, they're not going to talk about it. But I would say 90+% of everything we saw is just mass hysteria. You can clearly see the aircraft. You can clearly see airplanes, red and green strobes all over the place. And people were it was almost like they're trolling, right? I mean, that's 90%. But then a little birdie told me that there was also, once the hysteria picked up, there was another, I can't confirm this is all hearsay, but it's from a pretty good source. And the source told me once the mass hysteria took place, well, what better time to go test some things to when everybody's already seeing things anyways, right? So they may have snuck in some tests there. But again, if they did, that would also be classified. But guess what? Both of those situations that I just presented to you would be FAA approved by presidential or Pentagon orders. So just food for thought.
Nicole, what are your thoughts?
I'm just going to bring up that it's the FFA that gave us the final determination on the O'Hare Airport incident with the hole punch UFO and the ground crew and the tower that saw the UFO over, I think it was Gate C that day. And yeah, the FFA, they're official. They're like, oh, the FFA is going to tell us what's going on. And they gave us the weather anomaly hole punch. So, I mean, we have a history going with them that they don't always really even investigate anything, but they give us the answer or the solution. So I don't know. We have to take it for what it is sometimes. Hi, random guy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm
I
not
was hoping
familiar with.
I was
I'm not
hoping I
familiar
would see
with
some
Random
more
Guy.
cats.
Dirty left. I was going to introduce my cats to his cats. He hasn't met my two new ones yet.
I don't know where Filthy went, but Jason, when you hear Random Guy talk about this stuff, about what these drones could be and why there wasn't much more news on it, does it kind of just fall in line with the from a show standpoint? Does it just kind of fall in line with what we should expect from this type of situation?
Well, I don't trust the government at all. In the 1960s, when the Cold War was about, Eisenhower, I believe it was Eisenhower, or late 50s, early 60s, they used to fly bombers above American cities, B-52s, with actual nuclear bombs in them to practice what it would be like to drop bombs on Russia. So they would do these experiments where these jet fighters had no idea that the intercept they were supposed to intercept was actually an American plane, but it was these games. And there was an incident where one of these planes actually crashed into the B-52 bomber, and it had to drop the nuclear bomb right off the west coast, I think, of North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, in the swamps. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. They've lost hundreds of nuclear bombs since they started making them. They're right off, like they're in the ocean. And so to say that, they're looking with these drones for a tiny little thing of plutonium, like, come on, get out of here. The other thing is the numerous amounts of these drones. Again, if it's the FAA, either they're incompetent to like the very core of the organization, or they're blatantly lying. It cannot be anything in between. And I think what happens is that they're trying to give the blame to anybody at this point just to get the public to calm down. And this is what they're doing. I mean, they're not fooling any of us. We've been in this long enough. We know that deny, lie, and repeat as many times as you need to make sure that the public doesn't know anything about our visitors. And what's the end game? Honestly, guys, I got to ask you, what's the end game? That one day they're like, ta-da, here's all our stuff. Here it is. Or what? They're indefinitely going to keep it secret from us? Like, how long can it possibly last at this point? I'm getting angry at 10 o'clock at night.
It can last another 80 years as long as they keep hooking us with emerging tech and the dangle of disclosure, because it's not going to happen. Disclosure for dollars.
I like the fact you did reference the lost nuke. That actually did happen. That's a real thing. And
Thank you,
things
sir.
like that have happened in the past. But in this case, to answer your question, I would suggest that, yes, there will be a perpetual state of non-disclosure, but mostly because of the fact that you have to accept the fact that maybe they don't have the information that you think they do. That's always a possibility. So just the same way I'm skeptic, I think believers should, and I've talked to Nicole about this, I've talked to Dave about this. It's fine to believe whatever you believe, or not have your experiences discounted. However, the same way I am like 99% sure we don't have that information, I leave 1% to be proven wrong. But I think that true believers, regardless of your experience, let's say they are here. Let's say aliens are 100% real and everybody's having a valid moment. You have to leave the 1% possibility the government actually doesn't know. You have to leave that open, regardless how many whistleblowers, regardless of how many videos and everything else, because no one has proven it concretely. So you're basically having faith And
or
you
they
believe
know and they're useless. Or they know and they're useless. And I think really we should start calling this out. They know and they're useless. They can't do anything about it.
Everyone, hold on right there. We are joined by Random Guy, Nicole Sakach, and Jason Guillemette on this Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Unmute you guys. Jason, you've got yourself muted. No, I was muted.
Do I? No, I don't think so.
There we go. This is fun times.
A lot going on.
Hi,
lot.
Jason.
Hi, Jason. Miss you, Jason.
So, hey, Canadians, Jason, you gotta answer this for me because I like making this argument. So, when you say you distrust the government as a Canadian, are you meaning your government, or
Every single one of
you distrust all governments,
All
but
government.
mainly the U.S. government?
No, not
No?
mainly. I think the U.S. government, the problem with the U.S. is you guys have the largest military in the world. You spend the most money than any other country in your military prowess, and you're proud of it. And yet a couple of drones fly over and everybody loses their minds, and the military seems to not be able to do anything about it. So that's what, the world's looking at you guys going, what if the states can't deal with this? You think Norway could deal with this? Like Canada, for sure, we can't deal with this. We still have World War II equipment that we're using. There's no way.
I saw a statistic the other day on one of those reels. United States air power versus Canadian air power. I think the difference was the U.S. military had like 4,500 military aircraft, like fighter jets,
For our
and
one.
we have 66.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
For the second largest country in the world. That makes sense. Yeah.
the statistic that I was told while I was in the Air Force was that California and Texas could take on any nation in the planet, just those two states.
I would believe it. I would believe it.
Texas.
Yeah. No,
California over Texas.
what's that?
I'd mess with California over Texas.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Texas either.
California has the Navy, though. That's why that's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. It's a good point. All right, we got the information moving. No, it's interesting times because, like I said, I can't digest everything that's coming out at the speed at which it's coming out, and it's hard to validate anybody. Like it took me a while for Jason Sands. It took me a while. I had to look into it and then talk to people. Like, what do you think of it? And came around, but if we have to do that for everybody, and just because somebody comes up and, like you mentioned, Dave, like all of a sudden they're the face of ufology, or Nicole said that, and it's true. There's always a new face of ufology. It's quite maddening.
Well, I think it's maddening because we want it all to be one thing, though. Like
Cohesive.
we're like with James Fox's film just launching, and being called the program. Well, what program? The
Right.
crash retrieval program, the mind erase program, the psionics program. Like what program are we talking about with that? It's obviously not one thing,
And the thing is, we were talking about the psionics. If we have that power and the government knows about that and known about that for decades, then they're keeping a part of reality that we should be aware of.
Well,
Quiet, right?
Why is that up to the U.S. to disclose that?
Not the
though? I
US.
mean, we were
Not the
chasing the
US. I meant
Russians'
government
tail
and
on
organizations.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a lot of it. It's like this trickle down disclosure effect where it's like Canada, I feel, is a lot further in disclosure than the U.S. is at this point. We're backpedaling here in the U.S. and then they're
Canada's
trying to
not.
reboot it in the UK right now. That was
Yeah.
another place for drone madness there. It just seems like Anywhere where there's drone madness, there's also a lot of aerospace interest.
Good point. Yeah, and we haven't heard anything from Space Force. I noticed that they're very quiet, or the Air Force for that matter. They're very quiet. So why are we waiting for the FAA or the government? Like, look, you have these organizations in place for a freaking reason. Why aren't you asking these people? Like, we know Skunkworks exists. They make
Because
videos
they're
and
not
brag
going
about
to
it for
say.
crying out loud.
It's like, do you know all the companies that are on the International Space Station right now that run experiments and are doing their thing with NASA? Could you
Probably.
rattle off any of them? Right. Well, like, it's the same thing. They're not going to say who's all involved with drone madness when there's a bunch of fingers in that pie.
Yeah.
I would just say this: the same way that you can see clear incompetence at almost every level of the government, is pervasive everywhere. That's a large reason why contractors are great for multiple reasons, right? Plausible deniability, don't have
Hold
to
on,
open the books. Okay,
sorry,
good.
we're going to come
Do your
back in just a few seconds. Thank you to Area 53, Mike times 2, Pam, Adam, Andrew, Kitty Cattywack, and Jay for the super chats. We greatly appreciate the love and support, and we're going to get going right now. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got a panel of Nicole Sakach, Jason Guillemette, and Random Guy has shown up after about a year. Probably somewhere in the desert, because everybody knows Random Guy's got his own aliens. He does. We'll try and get that out of him here momentarily. But first, I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with our guests. We have until the top of the hour, Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast, Nicole Sakach, author and researcher and veteran, Random Guy. We're debating the drone situation here. We're debating whistleblowers. Let's get into the whistleblowers here. There's been a few. We've already forgotten about one because Jake Barker took the spotlight 36 hours later. Do we need more whistleblowers? Are their stories well worth the wait if they cannot provide the quality evidence that we would hope that they would? Because when Barber came out and News Nation had the video, I was praying it was going to be awesome. I really was praying it was going to be awesome. Nicole, what's your thoughts?
Well, that video wasn't Barber's, though. That wasn't one of his recoveries. That was a different submission to News Nation that they played along Barber's testimony, which was similar, but it wasn't actually, like, those are two separate things. So that's very annoying. So you pull Barber out of the News Nation and you plunk him into what we've seen Skywatcher put out. And that's where you get a better feel for it. And you hear the host, Alex, talking about how they sought these people out, which, Random Guy, we've tried to pull you out of the shadows to give more than just like your opinion. And you don't even like to talk about your work that is not UAP related on a lot of levels. So when somebody, comes out in the sense of Barber and the Psionics team around them, like, I don't know, that's a lot to unpack for all of us. And, you with your outside perspective on this, I think, has given me some insight, but it's also just interesting to find out these little things popping up. Like, okay, is there one team? He has a team. We talked about this with the drones just a minute ago. So, like, if it was something nuclear, like here in Illinois, they would activate IEMA, which is our Illinois Emergency Response Management something. I mess up the acronym all the time, which they're responsible for transporting anything nuclear or investigating radioactive anything all throughout the state. So I would assume that maybe a team like that would be activated, and everything is so compartmentalized. Like, would you ever really know until you get into these aspects like Barber talked about, this connection to the craft? Well, we've also heard that come up before. My last sighting that I've talked about here exclusively, like that, like I went through that emotional thing and it took me to my knees before I could even pull my camera back up. And it was egg shaped. I called it a teardrop, but there you go. There's another egg. So there's these mystery things that are still at play. Like, do we have tech that can mess with people's psyche like that? Like, we've heard of these DARPA projects that can visually, put something in the sky. But
Well, you bring up a good point. They actually have a gun now with a laser that at a distance, if the laser hits you, they could project what they want to say to you, like put the gun down. You will actually hear that from this laser. And they were talking about this. And the military is always 50 years ahead in science than us. And 50 years is a lot. Just think in the last 50 years, how much progress we've made and what we now have. So it's a lot. But with this reverse technology stuff, how much more further are they ahead? And the thing is, they may be ahead with technology, but they can't control the narrative because they can't control these entities, whatever they may be. And they're numerous. They're not the same species. What I'm interested in too, as well, is they mentioned about these recovery crafts that people are injured. How many? What do we talk about? Thousands? Like, how many people since the 1950s have been injured by retrieving these crafts or dealing with this entity? What was his name? Philip forgot his name. Schneider. Philip Schneider mentioned the time he went down and, he got attacked. Listen, we could say he was a whistleblower, might be on the fence, but he got wrapped 3 times around the throat with his own catheter. That's how he died. That to me sounds like murder. So the scary part is the whistleblowers and their protection. And if they've been injured, like, he mentioned, if, okay, they're injured, that should be first and foremost on the congressional hearings. Who's been injured? Let's hear from them. How did this happen to you? And who knows how many dealings with
that's
entities.
what keeps coming up though, because like Dave encounters a craft. Like, are you riddled with injuries? Like Cash Landrum, they got taken care of a little bit. And that's like the dividing line. Like, is this our tech? Is it replicated tech? Is it alien technology that hurts? Is it the nuclear powered experimental crafts, that are injuring people? A lot of people,
or the entities themselves, right?
A lot of people see the teardrops or orbs in the sky and they change colors. And Grant and I talked a lot about, and he even lectured on it, the blue meanies. Like, there's this big thing that's come out, like the blue ones can injure you. Well, then it's also the blue ones can also give you gifts or trigger this DNA brain thing in you to come forward, because not all those reports are bad. But that's in and of itself too. Like, why doesn't anybody talk about these colors that manifest? I mean, that's a reaction of some sort, whether it's the light spectrum or a chemical reaction, something in our atmosphere. Like, what makes them change colors? Is it really just the lighting, or is it a reaction to the craft or the bubble around it? Like,
right.
That's the individual back to drone madness. Yeah. I didn't see a single drone that displayed that circle around it, where you had that sphere of influence of whatever the UFO is interacting with our reality. It creates that warp bubble around it. To use Jack Sarfati's term, it's a warp bubble. The sphere of influence is a term Jim Peniston uses with Rendleton Forest. But
I want to get random guy in here for a second regarding the whistleblowers, because on X there seems to be a lot of people, random guy, who are going after the credibility of a lot of these whistleblowers, whether or not their service was real, their stories are real. Why do you think this is happening?
Well, because so as a veteran, I can tell you we take it very seriously when the first concern, here's the funny part or ironic part. Some of these guys are getting challenged, like Barber, especially recently, for stolen valor, because we take very seriously our accomplishments in the military. And if the fact you were in the military, you served, that's great. That you deserve some honor for that. I don't care if you were a kitchen cook, right? A truck driver, it doesn't matter. You signed on the dotted line, you got paid crap, treated like shit, and put your life, raise your hand, So like that has to be respected in itself. But then you get into not even related to UFO stuff, but you get the LARPers, right? The guy that says he's a Navy SEAL at the bar, stuff like that. And guys like Don Shipley, God bless him. Him and others have done nothing. There's a stolen valor account on X even. And what they do is they expose these bums, because even if you were in the military and you were a cook, but then you say you were a Navy SEAL, that's still a version of stolen valor, right? You didn't earn that trident. You didn't earn those accomplishments. So basically what you're doing, what you're seeing now is very interesting, because you're seeing regular veterans that are taking it in an interest in this of like, wait, this guy's doing. Now I could tell you for a fact, I mean, myself, I could tell you just random basic stuff that Barbara was saying. Oh, I got recruited out of high school, did a 10-year contract and this and that and the other. And I'm like, well, the Air Force doesn't do 6-year contracts. I can do the math. I've seen your DD-24. Like, so basically I can just assure you absolutely nothing he says matches. And now what's funny about that, you're like, well, yeah, if you work top secret, of course they're gonna cover for it, right? That sounds logical. However, people that are in the military, I know a ton, not a ton, but probably a dozen or so personally, real life tier 1 operators, that guy. Those guys that were Navy SEALs, those guys that were Delta, those guys that were 24th, those guys that work for the CIA after. I know those guys. And not one of them that I've spoken to in the last few weeks about this ever even worked with a guy that remotely hinted at this. So what we're talking about here is not just do you believe him, not just was it a cover story, it's this. You can go across the military, thousands of people, and not one of them will validate what he's saying. Not one of them can say he was training with them. And he had some big names come out, the CCT dude, Fred, some guys that are actually very well respected, very well recorded, heroism, Bronze Stars, the whole nine, very well respected. And it's almost like they started coming out and vouching for Barber. So then we all got confused, like, wait, why are these guys that we know are legit actually vouching for somebody that's kind of shady? Well, they got put in a corner. It's like, you guys can go on X and see this. Fred and the others like, well, I didn't actually work with them. I don't actually know. But then those guys, when these are guys that worked with CIA missions, like overthrew, like craziest stuff ever. And their DD-214s aren't, I mean, it doesn't say exactly what they did, but it says they're training, right? CCT, Navy SEAL, whatever it was you did, it's on your 214. It doesn't have to say what you did. That is such a far and away suspicious thing. And the way that they, especially Ross Coulthart, I don't know if it's him. I'm not going to put it on him. It could be his editors. But that was the worst misrepresentation of somebody's service record in history ever. Even if he's telling the truth, because when they released the extended one and then the subsequent interview, you could actually see where they took something that was very, very benign and made him seem like a tier 1 operator. Like when you're an op 4, and they know the intent was to impress civilians, because everybody in the military knows that 99% of what he said was not impressive. But the
do
way they
you
phrased it, the way they
do
edited
you
it was
think
intentional.
do you think that is probably because he's Australian and not
Yeah,
from the
potentially.
United States?
But this guy has, I mean, I know he's polarizing. I've seen both ways on, I don't know the guy, I don't follow him, so I'm not going to pass a judgment. I'm giving him benefit of the doubt, as a matter of fact. But somewhere, some way, when you're on cable news, like that's a big deal, right? And they're doing stuff with like Logan Paul now and all this stuff. Like that's pretty high profile. And you guys couldn't get one person that wasn't part of Skywatcher or part of that clique or someone outside ufology to come and vouch for any of that or vet any of that. That's a massive mistake as a journalist if you want to be taken seriously, in my opinion.
I have a lot of questions about these psionic teams or clubs. Did they go to Monroe Institute and train with Joe Monagle or Joe McGonigal? I always say his name wrong.
Ingo Swan. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there's also been like civilians and ufology or, that have gone and taken his course at Monroe, and it's all centered around UFOs. And I heard rumors that when some of these power experiencers went, that they actually had an orb show up. But the whole purpose of their being there was chaotic. It didn't go quite as they planned. But there is now some sort of UFO based retreat that you could take at Monroe Institute.
I wanted to ask you guys a question real quick, and before I forget it, because I was thinking of it earlier. So think back of like the last 2 or 3 decades, and all these mysterious murders, suicides, whatever, bad things that have happened, unfortunately, to researchers and the community, scientists, etc. What would you say the percentage? Because I don't know these cases. I know of like 2 of them because I don't research this. But I would just ask you this: how many quote unquote whistleblowers that were ex-military, ex-intelligence have survived to tell their story publicly? Well, the people that actually knew academic stuff maybe have either faded away or met their demise. What would you say how that breaks down? Wouldn't it? I'm going to guess, but I'm going to let you go and let me know. Are they more likely to make it publicly and talk about things if you're ex-military, ex-intel, or as a scientist that discovers something and you want to talk about it?
I think that this whole thing has turned into a military card.
And by that account, is that not itself seems suspicious? That a regular academic, well-educated person has trouble bringing facts, studies, evidence to light, but ex-intel, ex-military people are allowed to just go say, it blows my mind because they're like, hey, I got an NDA, I worked in all these special programs and blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you what my badge looked like, I can't tell you where I worked, but I'm going to tell you how these UFOs work, how we caught them, how we had shootouts with, like, whatever the story is. You don't think that would be covered in the NDA, but you can't tell me where you worked at? Come on, man.
But you have to realize too that us as journalists, whether it's Ross Coulthart, George Knapp, myself, or even podcasters like Jason or researchers like Nicole, we're not read into that. We may not know the full extent as to what you know as a former member of these types of, or as a former member of the United States Air Force.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So if what they're saying is a lie, they're going to be allowed. There's no law against lying about stuff that didn't exist. You can say whatever you want. As long as you don't say the truth, you're fine. You start saying the truth, you're going to run into real quick problems. I promise you, no matter who you are.
Well, the reason is, and I keep thinking about this, why and how long, right? Because we know that it's been tight-lipped for 100 years, and whoever worked on it, it's like, you don't talk, and if you talk, we'll kill you, we'll kill your family. It's obviously there's plenty of murders and whatever imprisonment tied to this historically. But what is the end game? And this is the part that irks me. It's like, is it them that's going to reveal themselves? Is it us that will talk about them? Are they both going to, one talks about them and then they reveal themselves? But there's got to be a point where it comes to a point where it stops. This is the part that I'm interested in. It's like, are we living in those times? Or like Nicole said, are we waiting another 80 years to reach that point? And to hold that secret, and it's not just the U.S. government, it's the governments across the world. If, they'll know separate things. It's like, if you know that something about reality is real and the people, what they're experiencing, like the gaslighting, that's the part that I don't like. They know the public is experiencing these encounters and these abductions, and then they come in to tell you, no, you're not. And you're going to stop talking to people about it. What necessity would they have to do that globally? The Calvine UFO incident, it was the next day, 2 days later, when the men in black showed up while these guys are smoking their cigarettes. How did they know about the picture? And this is the part that drives me crazy. We're talking about psionics and psychics. We know this, that CIA, whatever, they've been working on this for a long time. There's a reason why these men in black can find you wherever you are. These entities even mentioned to abductees, we can find you wherever you are. There's something about us that is visible outside our spectrum. And this is it. This is the part that irks me. I don't think a 24-year-old kid who's in the military has more right to know than me at 43 who's been investigating this and experiencing this my whole life. I don't think that's fair. That's not a fair trade-off. And you could say, I'm not going to admit to you that what you're experiencing is real. I get that, because the military is like caught with their pants down. They can't do anything. And this is globally. The biggest military power in the world, which you work for, can't do anything about it. That's humiliating. And I think this is why we're at where we're at, why the whistleblowers are stepping forward, because either way, if the dogfight was to break out, we'd lose. Like, there would not be a contest, unless you know something I don't. But this is where we're at. You got to wonder, what's the end game? When does it all come to a point?
We still haven't seen as many whistleblowers come forward now as we did with the citizens disclosure movement, where they marched them up, and it was 3 days and 200 people, giving testimony. Military background, civilians, scientists, academics, mom and pop people. Yeah. So that's even what I'm meaning, like, take into effect the whole history of this, like, and you're asking what's the end game? Why isn't it just outed? It's the exploitation factor. You might not be trying to exploit it. You just want the truth. Same with me and Dave or whoever tries to put their contactee hat on, You've dabbled with CE5 or HICE or contact modalities. Like, what would you do if one landed? Because, we've all had the blinky lights show up, or the flare ups, or, the formations. Like, what would you do if one landed? Like, Dave had to call our Keith Andrews and find out where it was. Like, I mean, like, what would you do if it just like hung out in your yard and was like, all right, now you got an egg, or you got your own orb? Like, would you tell your neighbors? Would you call the local Air Force base? Like, would you pull an ET? Would you like hide it in the stuffed animals, keep it for your family? Like, all of that. Like, there's hints to that. What's unfair is when they don't disclose these things, like the intent when you're around. Like I like to look at Rendlesham, look at the health effects that Jim had as opposed to the health effects John had. What was the difference between their encounter?
Yeah.
What was the detail? Do you know?
Personally? No.
Yeah. John had a weapon, pulled out a weapon, and encountered the craft twice. Jim didn't have a weapon, pulled out a pen and a pad and took notes. And, one of them got frozen in the sphere of influence. One of them didn't. One of them had adverse health effects.
That would be John, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he has a heart condition. Again, he has got to go to Wright-Patterson Air Force, because he could only go there for his heart condition.
But not to minimize anything that they both went through. Jim also suffers, dreams and bad sleep and, other experience or side effects that I would say. And that's what needs to be talked about, is this blast radius of symptoms and what can happen once you encounter these, because they're not all bad. It's not always bad. It's that enlightenment side too, or like the Reiki healing where everybody talks about Bledsoe, or the intuitive predictions. That's where I mean, like, what program are we talking about? What psionics program are we even talking about? The ones that can like astral project and like view, can they see things? Like the ones that have like predictions, like those sort of things. Like, there's got to be more than who tell me more about these squads, I guess is one way, or these units. Like, what are their specialties within the unit?
But they shouldn't even have specialty units for this because everybody can do it. If you just concentrate on it, everybody can do it. You don't need to pay Stephen Greer $3,500. You don't need special military UAP Psionics squads to try and contact them. Everybody has the power to do it. And on that note, we got to wrap this up. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Random Guy, for a great show. Swamp Dweller and Little Timmy James are next on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Does this mean I have to bring the Random Guy t-shirts back to the Spaced Out Radio store?
No. Limited engagement, buddy. Limited engagement.
Limited time offer. Awesome. I'm going to go order a pizza, but Nicole, it was a blast talking with you again. I absolutely love the way that
It's
you
always
think.
good seeing you, Jason.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. Make sure that we connect, and let's have you on the podcast too.
Lean
Random Guy.
forward. What's your mustache looking like these days? You have
yeah.
it curled out? Oh, there it is. Yep. You got it.
Yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. I'm just, it's a hobby. You know what I don't understand? People that do videos on how to grow a beard and they're 15 minutes long on YouTube, like, don't shave. Like, why is there how to let your face grow hair? Like,
That's so weird to me. I don't even know. If I started growing hair out of my face, I'd be really upset.
well, I think then you would have a reason to look up those videos. But as a man,
Freaks.
it's pretty simple. Yeah. It's freaking crazy. All right, guys. Love you guys. Random Guy, nice to talk to you. Dave, love you, brother.
Love you
We'll
too,
talk
buddy.
soon.
Take care, man.
Give us a sneak peek. What's your Dave 101 gonna rant on?
It's going to be the new face of the show. Why do we have to have a face of the show bringing out old information?
Hey, we didn't even talk about the most awesome one that came out alongside Barber, and that's
We
that's
could keep
Blitch. I know it was Blitch though.
if
like-
you and Random Guy want to stick around and keep going, we could keep going.
That dude was talking actual abductions. He's like, I've been abducted like since childhood, and everybody's like,
Boys' room. I have to hit the little boys' room. You guys stay here. I'll be right back. You guys.
Oh no, me and Nicole alone in the closet.
oh no. The
Crazy
UFO
cat lady and
World.
all.
You like my two new cats? They're fun.
Dude, you know me
slowly
and
becoming one of them.
animals. I deploy too much.
Next step's the beret. But
Yeah, I'll buy one on freaking wherever half these guys are buying their stolen valor.
hey,
What's up?
I know every once in a while you follow Rick Doty, but did you see the list of names? I think he named 12.
I think I
people.
stopped following him because he was trying to like hack my email.
Probably. He's got a team around him. But he put
No,
out
they were not.
12
They were.
names along with Project Serpo, I think, within the last couple days.
I don't know nothing about any of that stuff.
That's
You know
the
that.
scientist exchange program.
Yeah,
you know.
you're talking Greek to me.
Yeah. So I just thought those names had never been mentioned publicly before. So I'm sure there's people out there digging into their background and valor.
Oh, there's a whole, like, you guys don't even know. I don't know what the outcome's going to be for your community, but I assure you, it's in the dozens now of veterans that are involved in getting to the bottom of this dude's claims. So I don't know that anybody will care. But like I said, and for a lot of people that are actually involved in that, it has nothing to do with what he's saying. Half the people that I know checking him out, they don't even care about ufology, aliens, nothing. They're just, wait, this dude's saying he was, well, no, I never said I was CCT. I said I was in this club. And I'm like,
I know.
dude.
So like, okay, I think we
So he's
started.
walking it back to try to like play
So
the
when we
circle
talked
around.
about this a little bit the other day, like when you were in and you could take these classes and you learned all your specializations. Did you ever see one that
Okay, for starters, there's no, it's not like the freaking YMCA, all
the
right?
clubs?
When you're in the military, you have your job, your MOS, your AFSC, depending on what branch you're in. You graduate from basic training. So since we have a minute,
Right.
I'll go.
So like the recruiter comes through
Mhm.
and it's like, we're gonna ask you to join Star Trek Section 31.
No, I'll tell you how it works. So like when you're in Air Force basic training, like it doesn't matter who you are, what your job is. Like day one, it's not day one. I think it's like week 3. They actually roll through. And so the Air Force has a few different kinds of special operations. They have SEER instructor, which is not special operations, but it's survival instruction. And that is up in Washington. And they actually train all the special forces. They train pilots. They train anybody that could find themselves on the run in a combat situation. And they do that training.
I got to see a lot of special forces training at Great Lakes Naval Base in Chicago. They had
Oh,
a lot of
cool.
theaters for training.
Yeah, they have a bunch of
It
different
made it
locations.
different.
But more or less, so these guys come through. So they have SEER instructor, they have JTAC, that's like the guys that call in airstrikes, right? They embed with the Army. They have pararescue men, PJs. That's one of the baddest jobs. I almost tried out for it, but I'm like, nah, dude, if I don't make it, I don't want to lose my real job. Because when you go in, you have a guaranteed job, or at least you used to, and they let you try out for special ops. But if you wash out, then they could stick you in whatever the hell they want. So I wasn't going to risk my spot for that. So anyways, he went through, I'm talking about Barber here, what we can confirm. It sounds like he jumped at the combat controller, which is basically like an embedded air traffic controller / badass dude. So you can fight and you basically interface with the Air Force and get stuff done on teams.
Right. And I'll just swing it back since I brought him up. So it's like,
we're gonna come back.
Yeah, no worries.
you can cut us off. We can
No.
We'll
go.
talk later. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay.
But like when you go to the special spy schools and you learn your, spy training, like how to jump out of a plane and things like that.
Here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. A little bit of a lineup change here. Normally we go to Swamp Dweller and then Tim James, a UFO reporter, but we're going to stick around with Nicole Sakach and the random guy to hang out with us here for a little bit longer till the bottom of the hour, till it's Dave 101 time. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? DeBarris. DeBarris is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue on. This night's just too good. Nicole Sakach is here. Random Guy is here. It's all UFO topics here tonight. What's real? What's not? Man, we were talking about whistleblowers right before the break. And people, Nicole, get very fired up if you start questioning the whistleblowers. They do.
I know. I run with the khaki pant mafia. They're questioning them hardcore. I even earlier, like I still, I know it sounds cranky, but I don't think whistleblowers is the right term to describe these people. So maybe that's why they don't qualify for a lot of the whistleblower protections. But yeah, and they don't necessarily fit if you're writing a book or doing a film, like, you're not whistleblowing. Like, it's that simple. Like, Deep Throat was a whistleblower. Like, when you're exposing something, it's all on the line. You don't slow drip your whistleblowing. Like, you don't slow drip your info to get protection. Like, that's not how it goes. Like, and you don't expect to walk out of it unscathed when you're whistleblowing. You lose your privileges, you lose your clearances, you lose your in with the company that you're whistleblowing on, or, the whole point is you're still in the position while you're blowing the whistle. It's not a former thing. It's not what I used to do. It's not a hearsay thing to qualify. So I don't know.
Well,
So
random,
I can get cranky with that. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like how I started the show. It's like everything seems to me like a reinvention of the wheel right now. We've had these excellent sources that have come forward over the last 2 decades, whether they came out with Dr. Greer or on their own or however it's been, you know, and that's what's a shame. So, like, I don't know. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of Barber and these new ones that are coming out, but I'd like to know, like, how well they know their UFO history.
does it bother you, Nicole? Before I get to a question to random guy, does it bother you, Nicole, that all of these people who come out seem to stay away from ufology? They stay away from the podcast. They stay away from the YouTube channels. It seems like they've got their selected core that they will attach themselves to, but the rest of ufology doesn't get to share in that message. Yet these are the same people, the fans like ours, who are supporting them in their quest for disclosure or confirmation, whatever you want.
He's muted.
Now I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me? Um,
Durr.
no, I thought he was asking, like, why wouldn't who would you come out to, or how would you choose to come out? There's not a good way. I don't encourage anybody to do it. Like,
No, but
to
what,
whistleblow.
let me rephrase the question. What I'm asking is, a lot of these whistleblowers that seem to come out don't want anything to do with ufology.
Right, because we're like the loony, crazy cousin in the closet that nobody wants to admit's in their family. Like, it's they're trying really hard to say the stigma is broken or it's been lifted, but it's obviously not. That's why they're trying to rebrand and repackage and rename everything. So, they want to erase that history, which we've been saying the whole time, when they started taking their investigations back only to 2004 to cover the Nimitz. It's like cutting out Roswell and Rendlesham and Socorro and all these cases, which random guy, I think you put that date at like 1996. We in ufology say 1997 was a big year. So it's right around there, that transition. And we've seen a couple reboots since then. So now, yeah, this is their first big push. They got emerging tech coming out. Like, my theories, this follows aerospace and it's, shadowing tech that may be inspired. I don't agree with Jason that we have operational craft where we can fly the alien craft. I think that's where it goes wrong. It's like when Bledsoe got to hold the piece and it made him sick, because he wasn't connected to that craft. When you feel your craft coming, does it make you sick? But another one that you tried to connect to with bad intentions, that might make you sick. Like, that's another adverse reaction that people aren't discussing. Like,
One of the biggest podcasts right now is Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan did an interview with Chris Bledsoe, and allegedly now is refusing to run the show, saying that he doesn't want his name tied to the Bledsoe story. Why do you think he would do that? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I get asked all the time my opinion on Chris Bledsoe, or asked questions about Grant and Bledsoe, and he's a dangerous hot potato topic. Like, I will discuss like his alien or UFO of God point of view. Like, I argue that aspect of it. Like, I
I
don't
heard, if I can
like
interject,
associating that, but the parts of his stories, like everybody was interested in him and his encounter, and maybe they were interested in him because he was a government contractor, so that gave him an in. Maybe they were interested in him because of these like psychic dreams that he has, or the encounter with the lady, and there's too much hypothesis around that, or his healing abilities. Like, is that what it is? But I
No
don't
idea.
know. There
Random
is
guy.
also
no, I was just gonna say, just reading on X. So for those that don't know, Sean Ryan's super religious. Very talks publicly about being a Christian and whatnot. And from what I understand, again, this is just rumor, but it makes sense if you think about it. Um, I believe, and again, rumor, I believe Bledsoe makes a relationship between the aliens or extraterrestrials being angels and related to God or something of that form. And it doesn't sit with his beliefs or something along those lines. So there was something where he presented the aliens as somewhat deities, and I don't know the Bledsoe story. I'm just telling you, regurgitating what I read on X. So that's a potential reason why.
Yeah, no, I make this argument as well, and I try to say that I'm agnostic or even an atheist. I'm former Catholic, and making these identifiers, or trying, like, even before Bledsoe, the Jesus is an alien hypotheses, has come up over the last 20 years. And you repackage artwork from the Renaissance, or you try to make correlations about what, like with what Diana Pasalka does, correlations with uh, archival, I guess, evidence, that describes certain symptoms or lights in the sky or encounters with, numinous encounters, I guess is how to put it. So I think that's dangerous territory. I mean, the Catholic Church has come out and said, time and time again over the decades, that they would welcome, extraterrestrial life. I don't think they're hiding anything. I think they're exploring, just in the same sense as like NASA or SETI is exploring, that. But anytime, if we're trying to levelize ufology or attach a spirituality side to it, we're borrowing from every spiritual practice on the planet, at this point. And I don't really see an entity like the Catholic Church like totally just changing their perspective and saying, "Oh, yep, it's aliens." Like, they're not going to do that. Like, I don't like this layer of, that's how it leads to this, warning of ufology can be a cult. We're seeing cult like behavior pop up all through ufology. It's been a warning time and time again. It's been a warning since Scientology. Like, we can't pick and choose, I guess is one way to put it. We can't cherry pick it all and say that it's all one thing in that sense. So I could see that it. Bledsoe even talks about how he was like kicked out of his own local church, and people didn't want to believe him for his encounter. And he does attach this angels and demons thing to it, like a lot of people do. But I don't know. I don't like that. I used to argue with Merja about the
Well,
demons.
let's get to Random Guy here for a second, because you're not in ufology. You're an outsider who kind of looks in, trying to see this giant mess that we call ufology or uapology, whatever you want to call it these days. when you look at this community and the yearning and the desire for answers to what is going on, as somebody who has worked in the Air Force, do you see this as just a big mess that, like puzzle pieces that people are never going to be able to put together? Or is there more to it? Is it more complex than that, random guy? I'll get you to unmute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's up to you guys, right? It's up to your community, and there's too many. I would say in the short term, it's hopeless, and that doesn't mean give up hope. That doesn't mean stop following your truths, right? I don't mean that to be disparaging. I just simply mean you have too many conflicting channels of energy right now and too many mixed interests. So you have the government side, which clearly has an agenda, regardless of whether I'm not even saying what's real and what's not real, right? Maybe we just have really cool stuff that 100% looks like aliens, and we go out there and pretend to be aliens to conduct experiment. Who knows? The rabbit hole could be indefinitely deep when we know that we're 50 years ahead of technology, right? So that's one entity. Then you have the commercial entity, podcasts, movies, shows, stuff like that, right? So what that leads you to is now there's a monetization incentive to overstate things, to overindulge one's backgrounds, to overindulge one's experiences, all the way down the straight up hoaxing and making things that are not actually accurate at all. And then you have experiencers. These are people that have obviously experienced something, real or not, spiritual or not, who knows the origins, but it's a real experience to them, and they want answers, and that's all they care about. And then the fourth entity in this group is the people that just really want to know. They don't care. And the reason people, you mentioned paying $3,500 for a sightseeing or whatever, it's just the curiosity of people. Like you can't really put a dollar amount on it, and that's why when you get into grifting and everything else, it's a problem because people just. It's like I would pay 50 grand tomorrow. I would take 50 grand out of my retirement and pay it tomorrow if I could get definitive answers, and I think a lot of people would if they had it. So basically, you have these competing entities that are all working against each other, and then everybody that's a talking head, yourself included, no disrespect, but like everybody, you're one of the more moderate, neutral people, I think. But that's the only reason I talk to you and not 100 others. But everybody kind of has like their way, and they want to fit everything into the way they view it. And if it doesn't fit, then they want to destroy anybody that has a different view. So that's just enough confusion that you can never actually get everybody pointed in the same direction. If everybody was able to unify but the government, if it was every one of those entities that I just mentioned but the government, the truth would come out. Unfortunately, the fragmentation, it's divide and conquer. And that's what your community is facing right now.
But when you're not getting the truth or the perceived truth, it's very difficult to try and not trust your own narrative that you've come up with in your own mind.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I would encourage all of you, everybody listening to the show right now, and I already talked to you, Nicole, so you don't count, but you're never going to listen to me. But everybody that's listening to the show right now, whatever you believe, whatever your experience is, I encourage you, just like myself. I'm a skeptic-based person because, yeah, I have more information than you do, but that I always leave 1% to be wrong. The person that thinks they know everything is due for a hard landing, right? So I would just encourage you to leave 1% open, that maybe things are not as conspiratorial as you think, that maybe not everybody is out to get you, that maybe not every story is true, and that you could be, if you're a super believer to like the religious point of your beliefs, maybe you leave the door open for a little tuning of your beliefs, that perhaps it is not to the level or intensity that you believe it is. Be open-minded. The same way you want people open-minded to hear your experience and your beliefs, be open-minded to, I'm not talking about the obnoxious skeptics that yell at you and block you on X and tell you you're an idiot and a crazy person. I'm talking about people that have information to give you, that have a verified history. Just be a little more open-minded. That's the best thing you can do for now.
You got aliens, random guy?
F you, Dave.
Appreciate that. I'll take that as a yes, he's got aliens. What do you think, Nicole? Random guy got some aliens?
You remember when you told me I had aliens? I got mad at you. So I will say, I think random guy has high strangeness for sure, but does he have aliens? I don't know. That's the subjective part.
Nicole
One
is still
person,
trying to convince me that I was recruited as a child. So
one person's aliens, another person's angel.
Very well, very well said. Yeah, why did you get mad at me for asking if you got or telling you got aliens? You just didn't want to admit it.
No, I thought at that juncture, I hadn't seen the eyes. Remember, I had only witnessed the craft, and as I described in my lecture, the out of body experiences and the onboard encounters that I have. But when I'm on board, there isn't aliens.
well,
There's the craft, and there's me.
Nicole has a ceiling fan at her house that's basically a portal to anywhere you want to go. I'll just leave it at that.
Fact.
Truth on the ceiling fan, even though I've never seen it, but I'm going to believe that it is there because I have faith that you have one.
I think it actually just spins around the vortex of the sacred burial ground to the immediate west. It just channels. It's like the pendulum that you swing. The fan just focuses that energy.
Nicole got cats just to keep the portals open longer at her command.
Fact, that's the other real reason I got cats.
Random guy, I want to ask you: is there a way to mutually blend the ufological story and the military together? Is that even possible?
It is, but it's going to take, you would have to get someone like me or several people like me that know what they're talking about, that have no incentive, that don't have podcasts, don't make content, don't, that also, and this is going to sound crazy, you need an equal distribution of veterans, and because we're talking specifically about military government, right? In this question, you need an equal distribution of experiencers and non-experiencers, because what has to happen is the veterans and the intelligence service people, both the ones that have had these experiences and the ones have not, we have to hash that out first before we can come that to the public. So like someone like me and a few others, we get in a room with these Jake Barbers, these Lou Elizondos, stuff like that, put us all in a skiff together, non-experiencers that aren't incentivized, that aren't whistleblowers, and let us ask the questions that you would never know to ask with no fear of what we're talking about. And we'll get to the bottom of it real freaking quick. When we come to a consensus, then we can bring it to the public.
Let me cut you off there for a second, because for our audience sake, what would one of those questions be that we as a public without military experience wouldn't know to ask that somebody like you or other veterans would be able to know?
It really comes from a place of basically we can locate their, so it's one thing to hear a story, but I need to know that the chain of custody, right? You talk about evidence for a court case or anything else, like carrying that evidence from the place it was collected to the courtroom, so to speak, right? Chain of custody. There's certain people that have the right experiences that we can discuss these things with these people and build that chain of custody, other than trust me, bro. Trust me, bro goes out the window. When you have other people that know acronyms, locations, units, sites, badge colors, what it's like to get in the door. Like if there's a lie, it will be perceived immediately. And you can only get to the bottom of that in a safe space where no trade secrets, so to speak, are being divulged, right? It has to be very obviously tight knit. That will never happen. The government would never bless something like that. But that's the only way it would work, because you would have to be able to see who's a pretender and who has a legit story. Without being able to vet the person properly, it's impossible. That's just the unfortunate truth. It's going to come down to faith and each person's trustworthiness and their decision in that person, whether they believe them or not.
There's also the line of thinking, like, Grant and I flush this out, or try to, where like it comes that Jim Semivan's coming to mind right now. And it's been alleged that he sat at the CIA weird desk, or the weird desk was passed on to him. And this is another case where it's like we think every agency has its own weird desk, or, where these cases get funneled, or if employees experience things after, encountering certain things. But it's the case in point where you find out more, you get read into more after you leave your official position. Like once you retire or once you change jobs, that's where they pull you back in and fill you in.
Nicole, random guy. Coming up next, Dave 101. Weird News of the Week. This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're clear.
Dude, that music's like 90s beer commercial just waiting to happen. It's like a Budweiser commercial from 93 right there, that little rock solo.
Oh, yeah.
We like
I'm having flashbacks right now,
guitar
bro.
solos.
By
Hey,
the
shout
way,
out to the Bronze Star in the chat, by the way, if you're being serious. That's dope.
Yeah, that's Jay. He's part of
That's-
MUFON.
No, that's good
By
stuff.
the way, did you find a T-shirt to get over your bulbous head or what?
I just wear my random guy stuff all the time.
I hope you do.
Mostly just the underwear, no pants, just the underwear and the shirt. And then I go out in public. And surprised you don't
get
have a
the
lot more
Dave?
followers.
Did you get the Dave underwear, or is
Yeah,
there?
I got that dude's face on my junk like most days. So,
Fair, yes.
in fact,
I
he
don't
sent
even have a pair of those, though.
he wanted me to have his face on my junk, and I'm like, bro, I'm not left-handed and I can't do any psionics. So, but he
But
sent them
you are
anyway.
left-handed.
I'm actually ambidextrous, and you know that.
So fine, duh. That's what I'm saying. Like, what you're left? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
I think you know what that's a reference to, but we'll leave that for
I
X.
brought up the slide. Nobody knew what I was talking about. So, nope, that meme didn't even break through all of ufology. So, Dave,
I'm a gold
you-
chain from Steve Greer hitting me up. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
have you talked to Sammy Moe about this
Oh, she's gone dark.
summoning?
She's gone dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to her a few months ago, and Merle and I have both been trying to reach out to her. And she's like, all she said was that she's not in a good place right now and didn't respond after that.
Mm. Well,
Right.
she'll get back to a good place and
I hope
respond.
so. So usually when she goes through this stuff, it's just kind of thing where you just need to just give her room. You know?
That's a lady thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like, she explains. Do I have to keep calling it psionics? She can explain these different intuitive levels and psychic classes.
Mhm.
Not classes you take, like, levels of.
That's a question I have real quick. When you said, can we not call it? Doesn't MUFON, isn't that like the organization that gets to determine what we call things? Aren't they like in charge of that? Who gets
No.
to make up new terms?
No, anybody.
It's a free for all.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought MUFON was like the boss. I guess because I remember in the 90s, the first time I heard about, I'll tell you the exact moment. Long story short, 1992, and I'm watching a Fox News special, and it was on the anniversary of Roswell, and I'm 12 or 12 and a half, somewhere in there. And they literally had like Linda Moulton Howe, Bob Lazar, all this cool story about aliens and Roswell. And that was the first time I heard about MUFON, and I was like captivated because my dad's friend flew the SR-71. And I was like, oh, I never put two and two together until obviously years later, but that was my first impression for ufology was in 92.
Well, that brings up like who do you go to for what when you're looking to help or get help in this community? You know, like why do so many
Quick question.
witnesses and people go to Greer? You know, why do people go to MUFON? Why do people go to Corbell and Knapp now? Why do people go to Ross? Like, you know,
Quick question. Are you guys sticking around? Or because we can keep going if you want. I don't mind.
I can stay or go. It's up to you, bro.
I want to hear your Dave 101. I don't care if I hear
Yeah, I
it.
do want to hear the Dave
Yeah.
101. So make sure that gets in no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do an abbreviated version of the Dave 101, okay?
I got to juice up. I'm losing power. Hang on.
Okay. RG, do I need to send you some more stuff?
I'm good, brother. I got plenty of things. I cut the sleeves off some of them.
I can
I
send
got. It's been like 25 degrees here, so I've been wearing the. I got I've been wearing the green SOR one.
you. Nice.
But oh, did I tell you that Jim called me? And he's
did
like,
he?
hey, because your thing's in May, right?
Yeah.
So Jim called me and he goes, what are you doing? And I go, just hanging out. And I guess his wife's doing real bad. But he's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm coming out in May. Can I stay at your house? I was like, yeah. He goes, don't worry. I got you you're going to the Lazar movie, like your VIP. I was like, dude, you can stay at my house. You don't have to like trade things out.
Give me though.
But anyways,
We're gonna
I
get
love Jim, man. Jim's my people.
Hold on. Like 5 seconds.
All right.
Here we go, the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Dave 101 coming up right around the corner. But first, we want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the night, that time of the week, where I yell at all you young codgers to get off my lawn. Don't wreck the snow. There's too much snow on my lawn right now, so don't wreck the beautiful snow that I have going. It's a Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here!
It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
He's the killer! Yeah! He's the killer! Dave's a mess.
All right, this is going to be about Jake Barber, the latest whistleblower to come out. And why am I doing my Dave 101 on this? Because I really have nothing against the guy, but it's more against ufology. My question to the UFO crowd is this: why do we always have to have a new deity that literally we look to in biblical proportions as to why this person is the be all and end all on the path to disclosure? Now, Jake Barber is somebody who claims to have had experiences, claims to be in psionics or CE5, if we want to go prior to 2017, actually prior to 2025. Let's start off in 2024 when this happens. He's got this company made up. He's already big time funded. And if you watch him on X, he's already telling us how that golden path that Dorothy walked is now walked by ufology or UAPology on its way to the Emerald Towers of Disclosure. And by damn it, they're going to get there. They're going to make it happen. And ufology is falling all over, literally throwing their panties and boxer shorts up on the stage to this new rock star for literally the fact that he used the word disclosure. And 2025 is going to be an exciting year. Now, I don't blame Jake Barber. I mean, if he's passionate about this and he has the skill, the resume, the experiences, and the contacts, but most importantly, the money to do this, to help break this story open that we are not alone on this planet outside of human beings and soccer fans, but they're different, then good on him. I want him to do it. I want him to succeed. But at some point, ufology has to stop looking at these people as deities. They did it with Lou Elizondo. I remember having a conversation with Elizondo on this show where I asked him, I said, what do you think about being a god to these people? He didn't like it, found it very uncomfortable. Now, maybe Jake Barber, never talked to him. Maybe he has the proper knowledge and the brain capacity to actually want that to happen. And if he does, good on him, as long as he delivers. But where ufology loses ground is all of this stuff that is new is old. They're just retitling it to make it sound more fancy. I'm going to tell you the truth here. Anybody on this planet who wants to summon UFOs can. Anybody who wants to astral travel or remote view can. You don't have to pay Dr. Stephen Greer $2,500, $3,500 for a weekend to go away to learn this experience. You could do it on your own. Believe it or not, there are YouTube videos on how to do it. Suggest you try them out. It's real simple. It's a meditation followed by a clearing of consciousness with a pure soul, not heart, soul, and just stare up in the sky and ask them to come. And you might not have success the first time, the second time, the third time, or the fourth time. And it takes more than 5, 6, 10, 15 minutes to actually make this happen. But you could do it. You could do it. If you meditate, you can astral travel anywhere you want. And the more you practice, the more accurate you are going to get. Same with remote viewing. You could go train at Monroe Institute or work with somebody who's gone to Monroe or just knows how to do it, because some people are just like that. And you could make it happen on your own. Ufology, though, needs a deity for some reason. That's the new form. I remember many times before Stephen Bassett coming out on shows like ours saying, if we could just get one person from the Pentagon or from the inside to come out, it's going to blow disclosure wide open. We've had more than one. We've had dozens now come out, and it hasn't moved the needle very far. But for ufology, take a step back and see what these people are doing. They are just confirming what you already know. They are confirming the fact that there is these events happening. The phenomena is real. They're going to try and push disclosure to a narrative. You can do all of this, but we're going to change the name so it sounds more professional than Dr. J. Allen Hynek's CE 12345. We're going to call it Psionics now. And we're falling for it. We are falling for it because we want this as a community so bad that we will do and accept anything to make it happen. Now, I'm not saying Jake Barber's a fraud. In fact, we're trying to get him on this show. I want to interview him. I want to ask him questions. Whether or not that happens, that's a different story, because some of these people have handlers. Does he have a handler, or is he willing, because of Skywatcher, his group, to start going more public? We're going to find out soon what kind of deity he really is, and whether or not he is the Messiah ufology's been looking for, or if he's just another step in the right direction, or maybe wrong. And that is your Dave 101. Nicole Sakach is here. Random Guy is still here. We're going to take them till the top of the hour. And Nicole, I know you wanted to hear the rant. What did you think? You could be honest.
It was good. I was trying not to like do reactions, alongside, but it's good. Good job. I like it. How did you reach out to Mr. Barber?
Oh, that's secret. I don't tell those stories.
Oh,
No.
I thought maybe you like hashtagged him on X or something. It was like,
I've seen how
no.
Dave works behind the scenes. I've had other people be like, "Hey, do you know this SOR guy?"
Well, maybe we could crowdsource this a little bit with the space travelers in the audience. Let's all use our psionic powers right now, and let's send a message to Jake Barber. Come on, Spaced Out Radio. We can do that for 20 seconds. Think we can? We can all just community thought that, and project it to Barber. Let's bring on Colonel Bilch, too. He needs to tell his abduction stories. That would be peak woo. Did you hear that? That was more mind-blowing to me than Barber. So
Explain Bilch's abduction.
he went into it all, like talking about like what some people would want to call night terrors, like starting in childhood, and how he kept it all through his military career, and he's all heavy into robotics and things too, like, and his clearance level, how his mental stability has had to be checked over and over. And I mean, he's a powerhouse. Like, he is a completely sane, rational, high level person talking about experiences. Right? I can't think of anybody with more background where you would be like, what did he just say? Like Carl Nell saying he knows without a doubt. If like this guy I take more seriously. Like, this is firsthand. Like,
Well,
his
his resume
experiences.
is definitely
Right.
unquestionable.
Now, if he talks about like participating, like post his retirement or whatever, if he talks about like how he's chased down these abduction scenarios, like he's talked about what he remembers and what he remembers through regression and hypnosis, and makes a very clear-cut line between the two and how he likes to discuss it. So I hope he talks more, because that's somebody who's taken a deep dive, personally. You can tell by the way he speaks. So I want that to flush out more. And I don't want to say I don't take Barbers seriously. I think everybody's excited because, we've had these second and third hand witnesses, and here he is at first hand. But then we're also like, okay, well, did he touch the craft? Did he get to put the tarp on it? Did he hug it? Did he put his hands on it? Like, when he felt that like feminine energy, did he get downloads? Did he get a message? Did he get a mission? Like, a lot of experiencers get a purpose, they're supposed to talk about it. They're supposed to form Skywatcher, all these things. Like, they didn't get into that, probably because that Alex guy or Ross didn't know to ask these questions, because Ross isn't an experiencer either. So, it's like Mike was saying with military experience, you got to know, you got to be a part of it to know the right questions to ask. Well, it's the same thing with experiencers. Like, if you're not one, you don't know to ask all the high strangeness questions.
We lost Random Guy. Hopefully he'll pop back on here
You might.
momentarily. And here's the thing though, Nicole. I mean, we look at Colonel Bilch, we look at Carl Nell, we look at Elizondo, we look at many other of these people, okay, and we sit there and we think this is some good military experience. Okay, military experience, people who have had high ranking positions who are now taking this subject on very seriously. Should we treat them like we would a Richard Dolan or a Grant Cameron, but just in a different sense? Or do we try and hold them in a little bit higher regard because of their military background and military success?
I mean, I think it lends to their credibility as like a person and a human being. I think it gives that sort of a character assessment. I don't think it makes them any more of like an expert in this field than somebody with, non-military or government experience. That's the crux of it all. So and that's even what I'm saying, like when I compare this to what Melinda Leslie does. She has zero military experience. So Barber's Skywatcher team is going to go out and summon a UFO and capture the same stuff on camera that she's been capturing for years. Or Dorothy Izot, for instance, like that lady has been visited every year or every day, multiple times. She has more recorded footage of her encounters than anybody else on the planet. Continuous. Like every single one of her encounters she has filmed. So, I mean, when is enough to get us past that point? Like Grant says, how many witnesses do we need? How many videos? How many fuzzy videos? We're to the point where they've declared like this is something real. If we want to believe that like all the Nimitz videos and like everything that's been shredded, regardless of what we can debunk or be skeptical about, there are very real pursuits in this. Is it going to keep getting shut down? Arrow's still functioning, but President Trump just brought in Elon to kind of streamline our massive amounts of spending and our budget. Like we better be like hoping that Arrow survives, even if we love to complain about Arrow, it's still for us and it's still to solve this mystery. Do we want it to close like Blue Book got closed by Condon? No, we want Arrow to stay around so it can continue to get better and better. So in the same sense, like Jason was talking about oversaturation. We want that. We want it oversaturated. We want competition in this arena. If we want real answers, we want a bunch of Skywatchers. I wish, and not that I'm in love with MUFON, but they have such an infrastructure already. Can you think of another UFO group that's in all states? All 50 states. Why wouldn't a newer group utilize that already or try to collaborate with them? I'm sure MUFON knows where all the summoners are. State to state to state.
I want to ask Random Guy that same question, though. When you have Tim Gallaudet or Carl Nell or the new Colonel who just came out, what's his name again? I apologize.
Blitch.
Yeah, Colonel Bilch.
I might be saying it wrong.
When you have all of these, to us, they are high profile because of the subject we're in, but they seem to have a lot of commendable ranking and background for a lot of them. How do we know we can trust what they are saying because of the way that they have, been honorably serving their country, RG?
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, it sounds ironic, but I tend to trust generals and colonels more than former OSI whatever guys, and that's not a dig at anybody. I'm just hearing out my logic on it. A general, a colonel, somebody that's had that level, that magnitude of oversight, that means they've generally led just like, let's step outside whatever their main objective for their career may have been, that they were obviously great at in the military, to make those ranks and to be successful, to have their commendations, to have respect, have that platform. Like, let's set that aside. It's amazing, but for this discussion, it's not as amazing as what makes them trustworthy. If you're going to run misinformation, counter intel, what have you, you would expect it from OSI guys. You would expect it from lower level guys that are kind of ambiguous and can have great explanations of the gaps of why no one knows who they were during that time, right? Because they were that was their job, to be a gray man. A colonel or a general doesn't have that luxury. They have 100% accountability of where they were and what they were doing and what tasks they completed, and it's all on a record. So when they come out and they share experiences, to me, as somebody that's a non-believer, skeptic, whatever you want to call me, I actually give those guys more credibility, because I know, first of all, they're unlikely to be running misinformation, because the first person that, if you're logic, why would I trust the president? He's going to lie. Why would I trust the department? You know what I mean? The director of national defense. Why would I trust the general? Of course they're going to lie. The expectation would be that they're going to lie if they were in official capacity. So coming out after the fact, while they're retired, when their record is beyond reproach, and it's something that's a segue 90 degrees different than what they actually performed in the military, I tend to believe their experience. Now, can I speak that if it's psychological, is it spiritual, was it substance? Like, there's so many parameters of that, but I believe, like the built stuff, to me, that is probably the most credible thing right now that no one's talking about, way more than the barber stuff.
Wow, you heard it, Dave. Me and random guy are agreeing on experiencer. Colonel Bill.
Because he doesn't have the motivation. He doesn't need the money. He could write a book and make $1 million. He can get any NSA, CIA job he wants. He can get any contractor job he wants. He can do, and he has his experience. He's done some amazing things that are actually on the record. That's what I'm saying. This guy's beyond reproach. He doesn't have a motivation to do that. And people that are that high up, it just doesn't make sense for them to run misinformation, because it would be expected they would lie. So when they're sharing their experience stuff, to me, is very impressive and much more credible than a random gray man that you can't substantiate his record.
Let's thought experiment this out a little bit. So you have somebody of his high credibility, and he comes out. Like, is the next wave, like we saw with Grush and we saw with Elizondo, and we've seen with people, what do they call him? Tyler D, aka Tim Taylor, or even Travis Taylor for that matter. Like, these people that come out after they're out of their positions as experiencers, do you think that lends more credibility to their experience that they have? Like Bilch, like, he's a powerhouse, I mean, there's no questioning the man is a mental stable person. He's not making this up. He's not lying. So when people on that level go,
We say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, on your car, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Space Out. Remember, this show is copyright by Space Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, we're clear. Rando
Okay.
or Nicole, like you to, I get a troll at least once, twice a week in my room named Dark Protocol, and he goes, "Here are our again," because he can't spell very well. I don't know if he's a pirate. Here are our again, talking around the whistleblowers, not talking directly to them. Well, I was talking to Jason Sands the other day and booked him for a show for next month when he's available. So I think I'm talking to a whistleblower or two. And then he said, Dave said he was calling Lou. He returned that call yet? Actually, he returned the text. It wasn't a call. We texted. And we're going to see what happens there. Or are we still getting randos on to tear them down? How would you guys like to respond to that? Would you?
I embrace being a rando.
This is what I get to deal with. You know?
I don't know. When I discuss who I talk to, then other people get mad at me and tell me I shouldn't talk to people if I do talk to them directly. Or then the opposite of that is they think that I have to like answer for them somehow just because I speak with certain people that I know what their point of view is all the time. I get that with Grant all the time. It's like, what's Grant thinking? Or why did Grant this? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't really know. Grant doesn't run everything by me.
Well, this lazy eye, he tends to think that I just spew a bunch of BS that isn't real and that I'm not connected to anybody. And that I
That's
just
okay.
talk. What's that?
Okay. That's okay. He'll learn. He'll keep sticking around. Then
Oh,
he'll figure it out.
Subscribe. That's all that matters.
View time is view time, Dave. I don't know if you know that about YouTube. It doesn't matter. Haters or not.
Well, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it.
So I
do.
wanted to finish what I was gonna say, and like people like on the level of Filch, or like when people started figuring out that Jim Semivan had looked into Melinda Leslie, you know, and they have developed an ongoing friendship and talk about ufology and experience or stuff together. You know, so when somebody with those creds, official creds, you know, rubs elbows with the general populace like Melinda or with Chris Bledsoe, like, does that lend credence? Like Tim Taylor visiting Bledsoe, everybody descended on Bledsoe, but does that mean his encounters are more than yours, or yours and Sammy Moe's? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that I have put the feelers out for somebody who's a well-known name about my project coming up because I want to learn how to investigate it properly. I've put the invite out to many people. Hey, if you want to join me, come on up.
right.
You know, the place
What
is
I
wild.
want, I just want to. It's funny because I actually feel like I don't know if it's going to be February, it might be March, but I feel like before summer you're about to have some of the. And here's it's a double-edged sword. I feel like you're about to have some of the most known, like current in the news people as guests. But the alternative, you know, the naysay to that is like, why are they coming on SOR now? Like, why do they want their message out so bad? Right. You know what I mean? Like, because they're all almost, I don't want to say they're lining up, but I know things that are going on that you're talking about, and I'm not even involved. I'm like, damn, Dave's going to get some people on this show. Like, so I'm curious to watch for sure.
Well,
Is
apparently
Luke,
you know people who I'm talking to.
Well, you already know I know a lot of people, even if I pretend I don't.
is
You know,
Lou coming back on the show after you rescinded your interview with the evil publishing house to bring him on to talk about imminent?
no, that's why Dark Protocol thinks I'm an idiot, because he thinks I'm crying and whining because we didn't get our interview with Elizondo over imminent.
Oh,
And so he tries to play these aha Katya moments instead of
yeah.
taking what I actually said. He's taking like 4 words that I said and glued them together because he make sentence, right? So that's what the cheap shot was about.
Who else is coming on? Give us a we need Dirty Filth back. He does this.
I don't even know where Filthy went.
I
No.
think I know a guy that's almost. If I keep nudging him, he'll come on, and he will be probably the most polarizing person you've ever had on. Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about, but we won't talk about it yet. But
We've got a tentative date.
okay, because
Yeah.
if when that guy comes on, I might come on when he comes on. I'll put it that way. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's gonna be an interesting show, and I will tell you this without telling you. I'll let him. Obviously, we're talking hypothetical. Everybody's talking here, but I promise you guys, if you see me back with a guy that's new, you want to listen to this dude.
You should ask that Alex guy that interviewed Barber on Sky, like for Skywatcher. Alex with a K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few
I
I'm reaching out to right now.
Well, I would like to know his stake in all of this. He's a venture capitalist. He's invested in Salt. It sounds like he's the one who brought on Gary and brought on Carl Nell. So now he's invested in, these firsthand whistleblowers that have come forward and putting them to task and action. So, I
I'm
mean,
excited.
he's public now, so his interest is. So I'm wondering how much he has invested in this.
I'm excited because Dave's about to have guests that I've been stationed with. It's going to be exciting.
Oh boy.
I can't even say that. That is not a connect to.
I'm not saying who or what, but there's going to be guests on this show. It's going to be wild, man. I'm me and a bunch of people are kind of excited about to see the shit show, so to speak, of what's about to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know where it's going to go. I just want to talk to the guy. I think it's going to be fun.
So let's random guy, let's bring up what I was talking to you. It was like sundown your time and something appeared out of your window and you started recording it. Let's
Oh,
talk about that.
geez.
Oh, do you have some more aliens, random guy? Do you have more
We had
aliens?
orbs. We had orbs
And
tonight.
then he had another one pop up and I kept telling him, like, connect to it, talk to it, tell it to come closer. And
I
he wouldn't
literally
listen to me.
never, ever, I never think about ufology. I never think about this crap. Like, I have a real normal life and I try to, like, it's like people are like, you could summon spirits. I'm like, I don't want to know. I want to be ignorant as hell. I don't want to connect to anything. But every time I talk to you or Nicole, I always something weird happens and I'm like, this is why I don't hang out with you guys anymore. Like, it's just.
Oh, well, why do you think there's a "Fuck You, Dave" T-shirt on our website?
Though, he says it's funny. He talks to us and then gets high strangeness, which we just declared that, it's yourself. Everybody has this ability. But then the reverse of that is we talk to him and we get our Alexa hijacked. We get our phones cloned. We get random Chinese
Sorry about that.
F wads that call your contact list. And, there's just all these
there is some collateral damage that goes with that. I
get
apologize.
put on watch lists. Thanks.
It is kind of cool.
I just wanted to go to a conference. Actually, I don't even blame you for that. You know who I blame for being put on a watch list? He's gonna love this. I blame Jack Sarfati. He's the reason I'm on a watch
I was
list.
actually going to say that. I was like, if you hadn't drove around San Francisco with Jack, you wouldn't be on that watch list.
You wouldn't have gotten in a brand new Jaguar with Jack Sarfati.
No, I would have, but it would have gone a whole different direction than it did with you.
Well, I had Courtney with me, so who knows what would have happened. I think he would have pushed a button and it actually would have turned into a warp bubble capable Jaguar. It's honestly what I want to report from that.
I still want to meet Jack. I'm going to meet Jack one of these days and pretend like I don't know too much about him. And I'm going to bring him. Remember the Zoom I hacked into that he had?
You
I
didn't
want to
hack
bring.
into it. You did not hack into that.
I was not
very
invited. I was not invited.
We crashed a Zoom party. That's about it.
But I recorded everything. And
Actually, that wasn't a Zoom. That was the
what was it?
APEC. That was an APEC lecture.
When he was doing the warp drive stuff,
Yeah.
dude, it was freaking rad. I screenshotted the hell out of everything. Like, what's funny is I caught two other guys, and you know one of them, we will not name him tonight, who tried to pass Jack's slides as his own.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there. That's it.
Literally caught red-handed. And I didn't say stuff because I don't know what I'm supposed to know or not know. But I was like, dude, you're straight plagiarizing Jack Sarfati right now. And they don't know that I know things because my normal people in my life don't know that I know people like you and Dave. So, like, I have like a triple life. People don't know each other.
What did your grandpa do? Answer that.
My grandfather?
Yeah.
Did you mean? They're all dead.
Right.
My grandfather created two things. He had a patent for the CRT television, the tube itself, and he also created the lens that could photograph the sun in a telescope. And what was it called? Tensdale Laboratories or something like that. I don't remember. It was like in the 60s, 70s. But my grandfather died when I was like 2 or 3 years old. And then but yeah, that's what he actually never had formal education. It was like Goodwill Hunting for real. Dude was a genius. It was like sweeping floors at NASA and then ended up working for a laboratory. Literally dropped out of high school and became a scientist. That stuff could happen back then. You didn't need a resume. You could just show up and do work.
The propulsion laboratory, like the early guys, a lot of them didn't.
But this is why you also think that I was recruited as a kid, which we've had this argument a million times. But no,
I have never said recruited. I said watched, is what I said. The recruitment and grooming, that's kind of obvious. So if it's not obvious to you, then I wouldn't say that that's recruited. Like, but then this isn't just my theory alone. You know, I've dug into this with other people. It seems like, yeah, it's like they're aware of when legacy, there's legacy at play, but then it seems to come into play like maybe around 10 years old again.
There's definitely like hereditary. So here's the other thing. I never met, I'm going to tell you guys an actual true story. My biological.
Remember, we're live on YouTube and that this isn't just the three of us chatting.
No,
right?
I get it.
Okay.
No, this is fine. It's not related to work that I've done. So I never met my biological father. Went to prison when I was like 1 year old. Never met him. His father, which would have been my grandfather on that side, I never met him. He passed away about a few years ago. I don't remember what year, 2020, somewhere in there. All of a sudden I got a package one day and it was a letter from his widow that said, "Hey, I looked you up through birth records. You're like the last surviving person in our family. I wanted you to have his effects." And she didn't give me like money or real estate. She sent me like a box of his personal stuff. So I've never met this guy. Don't know anything about him. Nobody anywhere in my family has ever been in the military. Fathers, uncles, nothing like that. No one in my family has ever worked for the government, ever, any direction. They're all like construction workers and stuff. So my grandfather, I'm going through this box of stuff and it's like a couple watches and I pull up a photo. He has a 30-year It's a photo of my grandfather I never met, and he didn't know what I did. I didn't know what he did. 30-year service award, civil service award for working for the agency, in a photo with a handshake. Did I pull up photos? He has photos inside of. She sent me photos of him in Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis, like crazy, crazy stuff. And I never knew the guy, so I was like, when I showed my mom that, she was tripping out. It was just like, so when you say like there's weird family stuff, that does kind of run in circles. But we didn't even know each other, and it's still weird stuff. So skips
Maybe that's
generations.
your tie to Lua Elizondo. It's
I don't
Cuba.
know. It was weird though. It was freaking weird, man. I was looking at all that. I'm like, this is just. And then here's the other thing. My wife, when I was married, was from another country, and her father was in the Red Army during the Cold War, and he was a photographer. When we were married, he gave me photographs of drones and stuff that they had made that he had taken in the 70s and the early 80s. And he gave them to me, like black and white photos of top stuff I don't even think our government has. It's just so like the world is wild. World is a crazy place. Life is crazy.
That is pretty awesome.
So, Dave, I'll throw it back to you since we're cutting random guy out of his own explanation. Do you think random guy has aliens?
He totally's got aliens. He totally got some aliens. Oh yeah, we're not letting him off the hook
Does
with
he
this.
have government-sponsored aliens or just the regular kind of aliens?
Well, he's got illegal space aliens, because otherwise, if they're illegal aliens, they might get deported. So
Yeah, we're not doing those here anymore.
yeah, I think he's got some aliens. I think he's still in denial, but he's coming around. He's coming around. He's just gotta play the I don't give a shit role a few more times before he's finally.
So he's on the phone with me earlier today, and then he's like, "Holy shit, hang on a second." And he's like, "I gotta record this." This like right out his window, and then he's like, "Oh, there's another one." So there wasn't just one; there was two. He had one circling the other one. And then he refused to give it praise and ask it if it would blink or change colors. So what do you think of that?
I just yelled at the window, F you, Dave. That's the thing. I don't want it in my life. I'm rejecting openly any spirituality. I
That's
don't want
communication
cross-dimensional.
too.
I don't want religious. I don't want anything. I want to be ignorant my whole life and happy.
All right, John Lennon and who Imagine.
Remember when I made fun of the feather reports and then I got feathered? Like this might be one of those situations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you do bring up a good point though, Nicole. Exactly what we've been saying. Okay, anybody can do that. Like Mike feeds off of your information or your energy on it and my energy on it. That's why crap happens when he's talking to us.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, the official lingo for that is the scary hitchhiker effect,
Yes.
where we've talked about it in the sense of, how excited I was when I was going to shake Jim Peniston's hand and touch the hand of the craft and, all that stuff. Did that blast radius? We talk like about prime experiencers or these gatherings that we have where we all, have our high strangeness together. That is the hitchhiker effect. It's not all like this weird crazy poltergeist threw a bowl of cereal after I left Skinwalker Ranch stuff. So
Hold on.
we lost random guy again.
Yeah, he's just gonna watch now. Both his devices are dead.
Oh, see, that's a side effect. Tech drain, huh?
That's because he's got aliens and he doesn't want to admit it.
He has other symptoms too, but that's hard to correlate from his real work. If any of it could be, or like the fuck you, Dave. Because he does complain about these health effects that some might classify as experience or side effects.
He got aliens. Let's just I'm waiting for the text message. Hold on. Oh God, I just missed your last swear word. Your first swear word. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta redo this now. Let's get rid of this stuff here.
What do you know about the eye symptoms?
The what symptom?
Yeah, the different eye symptoms that people can suffer from. That seems to be coming up in conversations.
I don't know.
Whether it's like flash burn from seeing the craft, or a change in like a degradation, or a lot of contactees report the goo over their eyes and their nose when they come back.
45, 47, 49, 51. Hold on. 53.
And John Burroughs, for that
You're gonna
matter,
get your
like
first
what they went
bullshit
through,
out of the
like
way here.
Yeah.
so.
And
That's
you're
what I'm
mentioning love
meaning.
rate.
Like stand behind some people in the community, and you're gonna get more support. Like these people that come out of nowhere and have investors
It's a good
that
quote,
don't want to
actually.
be named, and that's fine, because things fall through. You might not want your name and money attached to stuff. That's fine. You don't know how to sort through all the loons in our community. That's fine too, because everybody comes across, like you were just talking, showing this egg. Like there, anytime you put out a video, that's risky. It's risky. What the Batman balloon that came out, and when the debrief put that out, yeah, I remember having a talk with Grant, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's just risky. It could be the kiss of death. It's like, would you hang your whole situation on one video that may or may not, and so I think that's what the egg is. But we all come across those moments of whether it's a video or it's a alleged witness or experiencer. Like we've all been lied to. We've all been fed the bullshit. We've all come across those moments of or it's a alleged witness or experiencer. Like we've all been lied to. Dr. Greer have that. We've all wanted the one to be the one. So people like Dr. Greer have that bullshit. We've all it. The edit bullshit. We've all won
Oh, I gotta get rid of that part right there.
bull stuff.
Okay. There we go. That's
So
nice.
here, I was gonna introduce you.
Yes.
This one's Daphne.
Uh-huh.
She's skinny one. Then here we got this one. She's kind of fat.
So
This is
cute.
Velma. This one's Velma.
How old are they now?
Maybe 16 weeks, 4 months, around there. They're under 6 months. I've had them a month now, a month and a week. They've doubled. I only had one. How many did Jason have?
Jason had 0. You got 1, and random guys got 1.
All right. Let's see, I'm tied.
I am gonna start getting some change in here, so that way I can play the game. I think that would be fun. I think that would be fun.
So I was telling you earlier, it seems like the mastermind behind Skywatcher is a heavy investor in salt,
Mhm.
who seems to support. Well, they brought on Gary Nolan. So, a while ago, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Have to dig into salt and see what they're all about. And they are all about like venture capitalists and introducing people with money to the people that have the ideas but not the money. Collaborations like this across science and technology. They're just inspiring. Well, you dig into their founders because they're relatively. I still would say that they're new, even though they're kind of this huge powerhouse now. Um, but you look into their investors, and Anthony and AJ are their founders, and I I don't know for sure. I think it's a father and son, but then the father has some books out. And then in 2016, he was an advisor to Trump and that transition. And then the son is a graduate, AJ is a graduate of Stanford Business School. So there's a Stanford link for you.
That makes sense.
Um,
I love it when you go down rabbit holes.
I know, I do too. And there's a couple other interesting names that popped up with Anthony, that founder. And so, yeah, I'll do some digging there. There's lots of opportunities. I say it over and over again. Sometimes to find ufology, you have to go outside of ufology. And yeah, it's definitely outside of ufology. But do you remember a long time ago, we were also talking about there has to be some middle people involved. The people between government and private sector that wheel and deal in that area. And how are they helping connect people from one end to the other? Because we keep talking about the emerging tech. There's emerging tech. Lou brought up patents. Hal Puthoff brought up patents. Everybody brings up patents. Well, if you're bringing up patents and tech and things that are going to emerge, they got to be emerging from somewhere, and they have to get connected with people with money. So there you go. That's where you follow the money just a little bit. I don't really care about money in our community, like who's capitalizing off of the UFOtainment, all of that. That's a different follow the money. That's different intention. Money in our community that's like moving the needle or furthering tech or advancing things on that end. That's the interesting money.
There's my starting point. Sorry. I've been searching for my starting point for a while.
Mhm.
There we go. Let me just test it.
What happened to
Okay. Sorry.
Is Tim joining? Why didn't he join?
Oh, he was having too much fun listening to you guys. And he's like, I really don't want to impose on this. Like, get
Oh.
in here. And he's like, screw you. And I'm like, screw you. You don't have aliens. Right? Hold on. I'm gonna make the one edit here. There's so this happened at 10:44. So 35:45 should be around here. These are real. Why do you think this is happening?
Well, because so as a veteran, I can tell you we take it very seriously when the first concern, here's the funny part or ironic part. Some of these guys are getting challenged, like Barber, especially recently, for stolen valor, because we take very seriously our accomplishments in the military. And the fact you were in the military, you served, that's great. That you deserve some honor for that. I don't care if you were a kitchen cook, right? A truck driver, it doesn't matter. You signed on the dotted line, you got paid crap, treated like shit, and put your life, raise your hand. Doesn't matter. You signed on the dotted line, you got paid crap, treated like shit, and truck driver, it doesn't matter. Treated like shit and crap, treated like shit, and crap, put your life, raise your hand, So like that has to be
Beautiful edit. Okay, there you go. All yours, Nicole.
I just like in the edit, when you're editing it, you play the word like 8 more times.
Gotta make sure. Gotta make sure.
Got to get out the sh, it, and the t.
I'm anal about that.
Yes, I named my cats after Scooby Doo. Just saying. Yes.
I didn't take you as cat lady. The cat still surprises me.
I've always had a cat, but I've never had 2 at once. So You know, I lost my 19-year-old cat a couple years
Yes.
ago. Well, I was trying to wait for the dog to die, and then I realized he's not going to die for a long time.
Buster's
So
cool.
he's Buster, but yeah, he's all right.
Buster's got aliens too.
Totally. But he is the run with fear instead of facing your alien type of contactee.
Uh-huh.
Like when I encounter Bigfoot, I'm not going to try to do anything except run away. Aliens towards Bigfoot away. That's how it goes.
Oh yeah. Hey, you gotta have aliens, man. You gotta have aliens.
But what is it that spooks you? You know, because I've called you in the middle of sky watches where I'm out in the middle of nowhere all by myself. Coyotes are around, you know, no people for miles.
What
And I
scares
think there's aliens, but you stay. Like, what is it? What's that difference between aliens and Bigfoot? Like, I'm scared as hell that time there. The 2 times I thought it was Bigfoot, and I ran like a child, a scared little child.
the first thing that scares me is when the forest around you goes silent. And you know something is there. I'm not saying Bigfoot.
Right.
You know something is there watching you, smelling you, and because you're a human, you don't see it. That's kind of freaky. When all of a sudden I get a little bit of a rush because I'm like I've told people, I'm not a researcher. I'm an enthusiast. But the one thing that I've learned about that I've confirmed with other researchers, and I get kind of excited when I hear it because I heard it a lot at our one spot and never put 2 and 2 together until recently being the last year, is when you hear the thud thud on the ground. You know, when you hear your kid, you know, if you're downstairs and you hear your kid upstairs in the bedroom and they go thud thud, really heavy steps on their floor, it makes like a muffled thud sound when it happens in the dirt. And it's always twice. It's never just thud. It's always thud thud. And I get a little excited when I hear that now, because that's a sign for me now.
I used to get excited when you'd hear that knock, the knockback. But then it's like
Mhm.
those closer encounters, I think, are the ones, I don't know, like the seeing the alien gray eyes after meditation and months and months and months of asking, you know, and that message saying you're going to be afraid, don't be afraid, fight through the fear, you know, that sort of thing, and like preparing for it. But when I thought I was that close to Bigfoot, there was just no fighting through the fear. The primal reaction is that fight or flight, and it was obviously flight. Like
Mhm.
there was no fighting through it to fight. You know, not that I wanted to have a confrontation, but you know, you think you want to witness something up close. Like there was nothing in my instincts that was saying, no, you can just stand here or just wait it out. It was run. So do you think that was like a Bigfoot projection? Like, we don't want you here, get out of here? That makes people do that? Or, I mean, because I'm not a chicken, I don't like putting it in that terms, but
Hmm.
yeah, it was definitely run. Yeah, get out of here.
When we got chased out of the forest this past summer, I wasn't scared. until I saw a real look of concern on Mark's face.
Yeah.
Mark, our armed guard, because the guy is half deaf, but when he's in the forest, his hearing is like a wild animal's. He hears everything, and he could literally he was listening. Our minds were prioritized on the filming and the shooting and everything. Mark's job was security, and he could hear this thing, like he could hear them scattering around. He figured there were 5 of them,
Hmm.
right? But there was one that was the concern, and he figured that got within 20 yards of us, and we would have never seen it where it was.
That's why I like bringing Buster. That's why I take him on a lot of things. Because even if it's, not an alien or you're encountering a Bigfoot, if it's another creature of any kind of weight, your animal will react to that. But that's also, like I told you, I started taking Buster. That was the second time I thought it was either Bigfoot or a cat. Because, like, I don't know what makes my dog react the way it does to that, whatever it was, that very defensive, something's there, wouldn't stop staring. And I couldn't determine what it was. And then that's when it was like that fear. And, I've laughed on this, telling you about the first encounter before. Like, I ran, I was so terrified. I fell. And when I fell, I peed my pants. I was so terrified that it was going to get me when I fell because I run slow. And then, yeah, it was like I was back at our base camp or whatever, and in my car and looking behind me, like waiting, because I also had a walkie-talkie. I was talking to our friend, and she was coming up from the other direction as I'm like running and peed my pants. And then I'm laughing, of course, because I'm, in my pee pants.
True.
Probably running from a squirrel is what I thought by that point. I'm like, I just ran from nothing. But no, like you follow that instinct, I try not to deny that. Like there was definitely something there. And it felt big. So
Yeah,
maybe that's it. Aliens are tiny. I just haven't encountered the big aliens yet.
it's funny because the troll responded a little bit earlier in the chat room, basically saying that I claim I can summon and that I should get Samantha Mowat and friends and do it live on the air. First off, I don't appease trolls ever. Okay. Second of all, Samantha is out of commission right now. That's all I'll say. Number 3, there is actually proof out there of me doing it. Terry Hall has it. Terry has talked about it on this show where they got videography of me twice being at home here in the studio. I don't know if they recorded my audio or not, but he was in Utah. I'm in British Columbia, and I called it in twice.
Yeah. So you told them to watch from the direction, and
Yeah,
it appeared, and
the
I
direction
remember that.
where they needed to put the camera. And I've done that twice. I've done it to Joe in our chat room.
Was that summoning, or is that like a form of biolocation? Like you're
It's
able to,
probably more
yeah.
biolocation. It's probably more biolocation.
Well, like
But
I even like what Jimmy Blanchett does, and we've dabbled with different heist groups or CE5 groups even here and have used Jimmy. He like uses his giant antenna, sends a coded message. It's usually, hey, space brothers and sisters, what's up, homies? It's a personalized message, and then the groups or the individual usually gives their location of where they're doing their heist or their sky watch, and crafts appear or lights appear or they send a transmission. And so a lot of times if you use the walkie-talkie, like the walkie-talkie will get feedback or get something come across it as well. And that's a data point. Like, I just wonder what these other groups will do. 'Cause, when the people that do it with Jimmy, it's like they line up a bunch of walkie-talkies and, they're all on like the same channel and everything. So when one's receiving, they all should, it's things like that. And, the one I went and we did it in Wisconsin, and we had Jimmy send a message, and it was like we were there the whole night, at Azatlan, and we waited and we did various parts of maybe CE5, but not really CE5. We weren't following all the protocols. And yeah, it's like lo and behold, it's like maybe an hour before the sun's going to come up, and we start unpacking or repacking up all of our equipment. And then that's when it appears and the radios do the radio thing. And we're like, what the F, after waiting all night. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with all of this. I'm excited. Sorry I cussed.
Oh, that's all right. We're off the air. I mean, we're still on YouTube Live, but radio-wise, we're off the air.
Yeah, no, I meant your editing work, but not really. I get excited and then the cuss words just fly out. But you're naysayer, like, it's that sort of stuff. Those are the people where I'm like, I get all JFK-ish, where I'm like, what have you done for ufology? Ask not what it can do for you, what you can do for it, Join MUFON, start your own group, try HEISS, get the CE5 app. Like, it's only $10. So what? Donate $10, play around with it. Do the tones. Like, this is part of the reinventing the wheel. It's like, if we're reinventing it, I hope we're taking like the best sections of it at least. Everybody is Barber's team. Do they have a Jimmy Blanchett antenna? Like, is that part of the psionics? What tech do they have with the psionics to assist? Or is it all just mental capabilities? Like, so many avenues to chase down with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's that time of the night where I got to wrap things up. Nicole, thank you for We Own the Nighting.
That was fun. I almost forgot, and then I remembered.
Just watching your excitement when you get ready for that, it's like you're a kid going into a candy store.
I was like, I need my cue. It brings out my old cheerleader. It's what it is.
Uh-huh.
It's that crowd response.
Big thank you for helping Random Guy get on this one tonight.
That was fun. Like, he kind of came out of nowhere with Barber, and it wasn't just him. There's his pack of people and friends and former whatchamacallits all around him. And I think that, just it broke through to that community, and that's good. Gotta all hands on deck this stuff.
And Jason brought some major mustache game tonight.
I just kept wanting to go.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. See?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, my friend.
Have a good night, my friend.
Thank you.
Own the morning.
Right. Thank you tonight to let's just go down the list here. Kitty Cattywag, Dizzle in Motion, Pam Harris, Dizzle in Motion, JWD40, Area 53, Trucker Andrew, and Adam B for the super chats. Tomorrow night on the show, Chris Spisek is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Baba Yaga. This is some weird paranormal, weird stuff.
I have some Baba Yaga DNA in me. It'll be a good show.
Going to get to that. Bye, everybody. Nicole, hold on. We'll say goodnight to everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.